Alright guys, so now I want to cut the lining of the back panel. Now you make sure you place the lining to be 2 inches higher at the neck region and also at the shoulder region. Then you cut equal length at the downside. Make sure it's equal at the downside. The sides give like 1 inch or 1.5 just to make the lining to be a bit wider than the main suit, right? Now the reason for this is to make sure that the lining does not compress the main suit. Now bear in mind that the end of the suit at the down will be equal, then the vent area you have to slit it, right? Don't forget that the line is on fold here, it's on fold here, but then the next lining to cut is the facing lining, that the facing for the lining, right? The inner parts we have lining, so I just had to place the facing this way. Then make sure the line is arranged. Then it's some double fold, right, on 2 layers, right? Then once you get to that stage, then I assume the men fabric lapping, like the men's suits, I just place it that way in order to get the exact width which I want to use or the at the inner side, right? So the facing will be first placed, then you place the main front panel of the suits on top of the facing, then cut with the guide of the side panels in order to get your desired inch. Now don't forget that the facing we have a curve. Likewise, sorry, the facing has a curve. Likewise, the line as well, we also have a curve. But the curve we have 1 inch extra at the curve area. So then you arrange the down part this way and then give gap as well at the upside. 1.5 inch or 2 inches is also ideal. It's advisable to cut it straight. Just cut it off straight. Let's just say to this extent, right? Later on, we're going to trim the armhole, but for now, let us get the curve first. Then for the curve, you first of all use chalk and mark the base, that's the size, the curvy area, right? Use chalk and indicate the curves, both the straight parts and everywhere. Use curve and indicate the parts. Make sure you mark it all through this way. So after you must have marked all through this way, now the next thing you're going to do now is to make sure you cut extra inch when cutting it out. I will show you as well when I'm cutting so you understand what I'm saying. So you mark all through this way. Then you're not going to cut from the marked area. You're going to give 1 inch gap. So you just go in by 1 inch, like I said. Now the 1 inch will help you to fix this to the main suit, right? To the main facing, right? Then give 1 inch also at the curve area, right? Give 1 inch also there. Then this other area will be cut equal. This straight part will be cut equal, right? Cut equal because already it has allowance at the inside. So you also give the curve here as well 1 inch. Later on, I'll also notch the down part of the curve the way I notched the up area. Just cut all through that way. And then once you're done with this, now the next thing to do here is to notch here as well. So I've notched already. They also notch the down one as well. Make sure you don't exceed the curved mark chalk. Then after that, mark your chalk to indicate the front and the back as well. Mark that way. Also make sure you have a particular symbol you use to know left and right. You can write L or R, however, right? So after which, this is your facing now. So now the sleeve is the next thing I'm cutting. So you make sure you cut equal widths at the up at the side region this way. Then at the up area, you are going to carefully place a heavy object on the sleeve so it doesn't shift. Then you cut the up area to be 1.5 inch higher than the main sleeve so that it doesn't contract or compress the sleeve when you make it. But then afterwards, these things will be cut out after you must have sewn. So just trying to make sure it's properly relaxed. Then you cut all through that way. Make sure you're cutting exact width this way. Then coming on the armhole side, you also cut exact width. And then The up area as well, you cut in this form, you cut in this form. Take your time to cut so that you don't have a regret. Then cut in this form as well. So after which, this is how your sleeve lining will be for the sleeve, right? So make sure you fold the 2 inches allowance for the sleeve hemming and then cut the excesses underneath. So by the time you now stitch it to the sleeve length, it will drag the 2 inches inside. That's the essence of that. Then after this now, the next to do here is to fold up the sleeve, and then you also bring the inner sleeve, right? The inner sleeve, you know, it's a 2-piece sleeve now, so you bring the inner sleeve as well. You cut in this form as well. I'm just trying to show you everything so that you don't have any doubts or any much confusion when watching this video. Please make sure you watch to the end before you can start making your own. So it took me days before I can do this voiceover because I had some recordings I did when I had a noisy environment, so I have to do voiceover afterwards. But then if you carefully watch the video, you understand every other thing I am saying. So you trim off all this area this way, trim it out, and then the up area as well, you also give little gap, right? 1 inch is enough. All right, guys, good morning. All right, so now we are trying to join the lining. So the lining we are joining is for the smaller sleeve lining and the bigger sleeve lining. So you join the straight edge with 1/2 inch. So you will start from there, 1/2 inch join, right? So make sure you join the lining first. Now I believe you must have seen the lining cutting. So you join the lining all through this way. Now make sure that you are using the material thread, the color of the thread of the fabric you are using. You are sewing to sew the line as well so that it will correspond. So join the 2 linings. The sleeve is where it's ideal for you to start from. So pick the sleeve linings and join them as shown. Then make sure it is sewn 1/2 inch this way. So you sew it 1/2 inch that way. Join the linings all through that way. The straight line is where I'm joining from, right? So after the lining, you go to the next stage. So you are meant to open press the lining. If you have steam iron, use it to open press the lining. After the lining, you now bring the men's sleeve, the men's body, the men's sleeve, right? Still bring the smaller inner sleeve and the bigger sleeve. First of all, trim off any excesses. Trim off any excesses. So trim off any excess hairstay coming out first, because if you don't trim it out, when you iron the clothes, it will stick to the lining and it will not give you that free movement. So trim off any edge that of the hairstay coming out. So now you will start sewing from this point, still with 1/2 inch, right? Still with 1/2 inch. Please note importantly the area I am sewing from. So stitch from this edge 1/2 inch or 3/4, right? That's the maximum you can stitch or you can sew. So when you stitch the edge, also do the same thing on the other sleeve. Cut out the excesses in this form, and then you now make sure that there's no gum coming out at the edges of the sleeve. Very important as well. Don't forget to do this. Also trim out the bigger sleeve edge. Trim it out as well this way. Also trim this as well in this form. Trim this as well in this form. And then also place it in this, match it in this form. And then start from there to stitch 1/2 inch as well. So start from here and place it inside this way. and then stitch half an inch from the edge where the vents or the sleeve opening is meant to be. So stitch half an inch all through that way as well. Stitch half an inch all through this way as well. Make sure you stitch to the end, right? Alright, so now I'm bringing the facing, the suit facing, right? The suit facing, make sure as well you trim out any excesses of the hairstay, any excesses of the hairstay. Trim out the excesses this way, and then this is the facing we cut initially. So you trim out any excesses. Make sure that there's no excess coming out, and I believe you also know that the facing is gummed completely. Everything is gummed on the facing completely, right? The shape, the curve, it was also gummed. Initially, we just did the normal straight cutting and then used the pieces to patch the curvy effects. So, taking my time to trim. Alright, so now I am done trimming the hairstays edge properly. So now the next thing we do here now is to attach the lining. Now the lining, please note importantly how it's going to be attached. It's very, very important. Very, very important. So you start from this side, then make sure you correspond the edge that is meant for the up and the down. Please don't make mistake while doing this, right? Make sure you correspond the edge properly. The edge must be corresponded properly. Then you pick one edge this way. Let me do it again. So now you correspond, make sure the edges that's needed, the extra point is corresponded, right? So you pick the edge that corresponds to each, right? As you can see how I held it. Then make sure the lining had the notching that will enable you stitch from there. So I stitch from the notched points. I will stitch all through from the notched points this way. So stitching all through from the notch point and then curve from there, curve from there to the inside, gradually curve it all through this way, curve it all through from there, curve to this point, right? So trying to make sure I stitch this one first. So now after you have sewn one edge, you also pick the other edge this way. So from the notch point, you sew to the up, notch the up, and then notch the down. So this is how you attach this lining to the facing. So note importantly that I did not stitch from the point or the notch position. There's still a little gap. So stitch all through this way. Stitch all through this way. Stitch all through this way. And then cut the lining, cut the threads, cut the threads. Then after this, the next thing to do as well is to close the straight parts, right? So you hold it flat in this form and close the straight parts. So you see how it's been done. You close the straight parts this way from midpoint to the other edge. You also turn it the other way around. So please make sure you close it halfway. Don't close it all through. Halfway from one edge to the other edge. So that it will flush properly. So you cut your threads. So let me open it up now and show you the results. So look at the results we have. See how fine it is, right? So this is how you do yours. From the curvy side to the down, curvy side to the up, then lastly you sew the straight edge. So this is how it came out, very fine. So this thing is what you do on the other lining as well. Alright, so now we are done doing the two linings for the facing. So this is how it came out. So let's now go to the back panel. Now for the back panel, we are going to start from the vent as well. From the vent where we had vent, so stitch half an inch that way, give half an inch off for you to use to attach your lining, right? Don't sew to the end of the vent, then stitch 1 inch or the inch you use in your fitting at the back. So stitch from here, that's around 1 inch or thereabouts, or more than 1 inch, depending on the inch you left at the back, in order to give the back fitting for your customer, right? So stitch all through this way and through to the neck. Make sure you also correspond or try to match the neckline at the back. Make sure that the both necklines are matching. So once you are done with this is how it will be. Then you trim off the excess hairstay as well. Very important on the neckline, and also trim at the vent area. So trim off the excesses that way. Then after that, you open it up this way and trim. Right, the trimming must be done nicely, and make sure you don't shorten or reduce the actual size of the fabric, meaning don't cut off on the fabric, just trim at the edge where the hairstay is. So trim all through this way, trim all through this way, and then from here you also trim as well. Then open up the shoulder area as well, trim the armhole, trim all through this way, trim everything trimmable, right? Trim everything trimmable, trim all through this way, trim this one as well, trim everything trimmable, and then trim the neckline as well. Make sure it's properly trimmed so that you don't have excess gum while joining. It's not good to have excesses on the neck area and the shoulder area. So trim everything there. So now the next stage we are trying to do now is to open press, fold the bases so that you know exactly where you are sewing from, right? So let's now start the iron. So now we are marking out 2 inches. Now these 2 inches is for the hemming, right? Which you already know how it was used in the drafting stage. So we mark out 2 inches there. Then you have to fold that 2 inches so that you iron the lines. Very important. So you iron the lines. You fold the 2 inches, you iron the lines. You can still sprinkle water on it. You iron the lines. Then you iron out all through this way. So this ironing must be done on both sides, right? It must be done on both sides so that to make sure that the suit length is in line. The suit length must be in line. You iron out this all through this way. Very important, please. Very important. You iron out all through this way. Try to make sure that you iron properly. Must be 2 inches. Iron all through that way. So after you must have ironed from this point, now the next to do now is to open press the center back and also do the vent formation this way so that the vents will be properly placed. So you take a piece of fabric, place on top, must be a cotton material or the same fabric you are sewing. The same fabric you are sewing, you take a piece of it and place on top to iron out that area. So you iron the vent properly. Please make sure you place a fabric on top before you iron, right? Very important. Then after which, the next to do is to open press the back. Open press the back. Make sure you iron the back panel properly that way. And then after which, you take your sprinkler and iron the inner line. You take your sprinkler and iron the inner line. So cut the threads and then notch there. Give it a down V notching, right?
in order to allow the vent to relax. Notch it this way, V-like, facing down. Sprinkle inside it, and then you iron. Make sure your iron is not too hot to burn the fabric. Then I also note or know that you must have taken note of the gumming, armhole area, neckline, and the shoulder area is the only area you need to gum, and the vent area for the back suit, right? So note the gum positions and also know the inches I might have used in this gumming. So always use your cooler or your clapper, however you call it, to cool the lines. So you take your time, iron out all through that way. Then also iron this area as well, as shown. Iron all through this way as well. So also use your cooler or your clapper to do a perfect job. Please be patient enough to watch this video and make your own. Make sure it's coming out nicely. So look at how fine it's already looking, right? That's the back. And also note importantly that the back should have that fitting effect. You must see the center back being a bit smaller than the off area of the suit. So this is how it should be. When the person puts it on, it will be very fitted at the back without giving air or bogus feeling. So after this now, you are done with the ironing of this one. The next you will do is the sleeve or the linings. Anyone can start from the linings of the sleeve. If you note, we did the lining, two linings differently of the sleeve, the two linings of the bigger arm and the smaller arm coming together, while the other arm is on its own. So you iron out all through this way, iron all through this way, cut your threads. So that's for that. You can still open press this one, open press the lining so that it will be relaxed as well. These things are very important so that it will give you a perfect finishing. Both the inside, your inside suit should be finer than the outside suit. That is what makes your work to be a standard suit maker, right? So after this, you iron out properly this way. Iron first before you open press. So once you are done ironing, you are going to open press that one as well. Then you trim off the excess lining at the up area, the smaller parts. So then, suit is just about ironing and pressing. So you need to be patient enough while doing this. So sprinkle water on it so that it will be soft. You iron all through. Make sure you get your sprinkler or your steam iron, whichever one you can lay your hands on. It will still work, whether charcoal iron or the electric iron. Either of them will work perfectly well. So you iron all through this way. So now you are still going to trim off excesses coming here, and make sure after trimming you remove the gum from the tablecloth so that it doesn't stick to the material, right? It's very important. So pick off any debris of the hairstay or any pieces or debris of the hairstay. Then you are still going to fold the sleeve, the inch we used in the addition, which was 2 inches, right? Which was 2 inches. So you mark 2 inches as well. You mark 2 inches as well. So this is just one of the simplest methods you can use. When you master the method, it will be very much ideal for you to use subsequently. So you iron flat all through that way. You iron all through this way. So when you get to a certain level, you are to take your time to iron all the necessary areas. Fold this as well in this form. You iron as well. You iron as well. So the next we do as well is the side folding. So you also fold in this form. As you can see how I am folding mine as well. So fold in this form, fold it properly, fold properly, and then you cool with your cooler. You have to fold only one edge, and the edge of folding is the bigger sleeve. The smaller sleeve is to be left on its own. The side you're folding, then you notch these points, notch this point. Make sure that the notching is still the same way, the same pattern you did on the back panel, the back bodies of the suits. Then iron all through this way, iron all through this way, and then open press. Very important, you open press. So you must make sure you go through the whole processes I am undergoing now to make this video for you guys. So you open press all through this way. You open press, open press, open press, open press, you cool, iron and cool. Then you can trim off any excesses. So just make sure you retain the same shape, Don't trim more than the shape you have already drafted. So once you are done with this, now you're also going to do the same thing on the other sleeve. So I will do that and come back to the next page. So the second sleeve, I am just trying to show you guys so that you see that I am taking my time to iron all of this. So you iron out properly. Make sure you're not in a haste, right? This video is just giving the detailing, like where you should iron. So your own might take longer time to do that. So don't be in a haste to finish it up. Just take your time to do it. Even if you do cutting in a day and gum in a day, it's still okay. The next day you start the sewing process proper. Don't try to finish everything at once. It's not possible. Your speed will increase at regular practicing, like sewing. So don't try to finish one or two in a day. It's not possible because it's a detailed job. Then with time, you are going to make as many as you want, depending on how fast you become afterwards. So now I'm trying to show you guys the interfacing and the lining, how to iron it properly. So it's just going to still be the same process of sprinkle water on it. Make sure your ironing is done smoothly, please. Very important. Then cross-check the hotness. Iron gently. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's a moderate steam or a moderate hotness. Iron flat this way, right? Iron flat this way. So I think this video is more detailed and more clearer because I think I got a clearer camera coverage now. So you iron out all through and make sure you use a fancy lining at the inside. It will help you to beautify the suit at the inside. Don't use a plain line, please. Make sure you go for a suit line that is fanciful. Ask them for suit lining, fanciful one. Is kind of it gives you that vintage like texture or a bit stronger than vintage, something very fanciful and nice. Then after this, you're going to mark out where your inner pockets will be. So get the middle. The middle of that point is 2.2. 2.2. Get the middle, right? Where you position the welt pocket. So the pocket, I'm trying to draw a straight line there. Now you mark a straight line at that point. Now mark ½ inch off from the lining, and then from there 5 inches, or depending on the size you want to make, but normally it's 5 inches wet pocket opening. So this is the position the wet pocket will be. So I'll also open press the inside, or can still leave it that way, and then do the other one, the same process and then the same position. So please carefully watch this video and make sure you follow the video to the end before you start your own stitching or sewing, right? So I will take my time to finish the ironing and then show you the next stage as well. All right, so now I'm trying to separate the panel. Now please note that the thread must be cut in this form at the middle of each thread, right? at the middle. So the threads will be left on both panels. Open them up and cut at the middle. Very important, please, very important. Cut at the middle of each of those threads, right? So take your time while doing this. Open them up, cut at the middle of each of those threads. As you can see how the threads are being left out on the fabric. So I will now trim the edges. I will now trim the edges properly this way. So when I trim all through, all right around the edge, now then you also trim the armhole, do the same thing on the other, on all the edges of the gummed panels of the front panel, right? So trim all through this way. Make sure you don't widen or shorten the main fabric now. Trim at that point where your hairstay are coming out. Trim all through that way. Trim very well. Trim all through this way. Don't widen or shorten the fabric. Make sure the trimming is done perfectly well. Trim, 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 trim. Trim everything off. And then do the same thing on the other panel as well. And then you proceed to the next stage. All right, so now we are trying to remove the side panel. Now remember that we did not remove it, they are befitting at the first stage of cutting, right? So just try to gum it first so that it will be easier for us to slit out now. So we are going to remove that edge. And remember that it has a fitting of 1 inch inwards or thereabout. Just make sure you have it in this form, just to give you a fitting, a dart-like measurements at this edge, right? So you slit it at this point. So you cut it at this point. Make sure you remove the fitting. Slit all through to the end. Then cut out this edge as well. Like 3/4 inch off is okay. At the chest region. Then after this, the next thing we do now is to gum it. So now we are going to cut the lining, and then pockets and every other components needed now is what is left next. So let's now cut them. All right, so now we are trying to cut out the breast pocketing, which we use the same fabric in forming. So we are going to take this shape that came out from the armhole of the front panel, the shape that came out from the armhole of the front panel. So you mark out your baseline this way, cut from here, and then take the edge. Now it must be within that same range that came out from the front armhole curve. You can now measure out 1.5 inch from there, and then 4 inches from here, and then 3/4 inch down. Slope it to that position. Make sure it's properly sloped. Now the next thing we do now is to cut out the line this way, and then this is the inner breast pocketing. Cut in this form and cut out from this direction as well, just to give you that perfect size you want. So I think it's okay for me in this way. Now the next we are going to do now is the pocket mouths and the pocketings for them. All right, so now for the breast pocket mouth, for the pocket mouth, 8 inches by 4 right? So it will be pair. That's two, two. So you have to cut in this form. So the four of them is now there. Now the next you are going to cut now will be the pocket cover. So now you cut out, just bring the pieces of fabric, the one you can be useful for it. Then the measurement I have here will be 7.5 width. Then make sure you measure two times, 7.5, that way. Now the width can be 4 inches, 4.5, right? So just make it to be a bit bigger so that by the time you trim, you still sew it and trim, right? It will still give you a perfect cover for your suit, right? For the down pocket. The pocket cover is one. The under must be lining. So that's why you have to use lining. So now we are going to start gumming. All right, so now trying to gum the top out for the down cover, you gum like 3 inches all across. I will still split it at the middle, right? So gum like 3 inches all across that way, and then cut out this edge, cut from the center as well. Make sure it's properly gummed, then slit at the middle, slit at the middle, also slit from the middle as well. Now the next you do now will be to fold. The folding is 1 inch folding or 3/4 inch folding. 1 inch folding. You fold all through this way. Make sure you fold the four of them to be equal. Fold all through that way. Iron properly. Make sure it's straight enough because this will be one of the outside finishing you will crave for. Fold all through that way and make sure everything is coming out nicely this way. And then hold the four of them. All right, so now we are trying to gum the pocket cover with haystay. Now don't forget that the pocket cover must be used, the underneath will be lining, but the up will be the main fabric or the color of your choice. Then use haystay to gum it, right? Very important. Then you have to cut only two, then we cut with lining in order to give it that perfect finishing after stitch, right? So this is the pocket cover gum with haystay, and then separate it this way, trim the excesses before you now cut the corresponding lining. So now we are trying to gum the inner pocketing for the breast pocket. So you are meant to gum with gum stir. So just gum it with gum stir. So just note attentively where I'm gumming and what I'm using in gumming, right? Then trim off the linings cut from the midpoints. So now make sure that you cut at least 9 by 9 and then gum one edge, then fold 1 inch. Your gumming must be more than 1 inch. Then once you're done with that, now you iron out to this point, iron to this point, then fold this other one as well, 1 inch, iron to this very point as well. So after which the next to do as well is to bring the other a longer lining, then measure out 11 by 9 inches, right? 11 by 9, 11 by 9. So just split it all through this way, and then you are done with this. So you're also going to gum this one as well. So don't forget that this lining we are drafting now is for the inner welt pocket or suit pocket, for the lining part, right? That's where they have the facing of the suit. So this is where you are going to place your lining on for the tip of the pocket. So you cut out all through this way, cut all through this way. All right, so now we are trying to start joining, right? So from the back, So from the back, you hold the edge of the vent. You hold the edge of the vent. You stitch quarter inch or normal inch for joining, right? So stitch that way. The vent is where you sew from first, making sure that the lining is facing the right side of the fabric. That's the lining must mirror the front parts of the suit, right? So stitch halfway, halfway. Stitch the vent first from the down. Please note from the down. Stitch the vent from the down first. Make sure you don't stitch one edge to the other edge. Stitch halfway to the middle vent and then halfway to the other middle vent as well. Then you are giving gap for the hemming area. Don't stitch from the hem. The stitching must come from the real sweep length. The hem will be handled later on. So stitch from there, stitch from there. Make sure you stitch to the notch point of the vent. So once you are done doing that, now the next you will do now, you cut the threads as well. Then you are going to hold the vent opening, sew it on its own, and make sure you arrange the lining edge. The center lining must be held nicely that way. Then you stitch. Make sure you fold the joining to come to the suit panel. Arrange the underneath fabric properly, and then you stitch. You stitch all through this way. Then once you get to that line, you pin your needle and then sew the lining a bit. Make sure you arrange the lining this way, making sure it's balanced properly, and then you stitch from there. So you sew the lining at this point. Then from the back panel, you are going to sew 1 inch for the line, right? The center back will not be sewn this way. Just allow it flow, right? Then you hold the down parts of the suit now, that the hemline this way, hold it this way. So now trying to join the hem, that the down part of the line of the suit to the lining. Now you are not meant to sew at the exact edge where the lining is. You are meant to give like 1.5 inch or 2 inches up. Now this will serve you for some adjustments and some alterations if there's any need to increase the length of the suit. So you can decide to as well trim up the lining or leave it that way. But if you are short of measurement, you have to trim the lining. So after this, you are going to fold both the lining and the length from that 2 inches you have ironed initially. Then stitch it all through this way. Stitch all through this way. Then join it to the other edge, right? So invariably, the lining should have been 2 inches shorter than the length of the suit. But it's advisable that you keep it inside so that in case you need to increase the length of the suit, you can now use the lining to do the increment. So having said that, now this is how it's forming already. Now the next I will do now is to lap it properly this way. See the outcome. Lap it properly this way. Then I will iron the rest out so it will give you a perfect finishing. Now after that, you now go to the sleeve version. Now the sleeve, you make sure you also notch where the corresponding line and the panel folding is. So notch there, then fold it in a diagonal form this way in order to just give it an angular folding. So fold diagonal form, then give it an angular stitch here, then trim the excesses off, or you can still leave it off that way. You might not trim it in case of any little adjustments. You can still leave it that way, and then fold this backward this way, and then you stitch at the edge. You stitch at the edge. That the singular sleeve now is where you're stitching the smaller sleeve. The first one was the bigger sleeve. Then you place it inside and then plug it in this way. So the edge must come out in this form. So the edge must come out in this form. So now this is how it is. So you must make sure you bring out the edges properly. Now once the edges are properly brought out, now the next thing you do now will be to also calmly iron out all of this. You calmly iron out all of this and make sure you pack it down with loose stitch. Then you make sure you pack it this way. Then just with a loose stitch, just to help it keep the two sleeves together. Now let me also show you how to do this again in case you have confusion. Then notch it properly this way. Notch it properly this way. Not the bolts this way. So you know where the both of them met each other. Then fold it in a way that the two notches will not correspond, right? This is what I did in the first one. So in case it's not clear at the first one, you will see it in this second one now. So hold it that way and then stitch it to the point where the folding gave you um, a the intercepts, right? So stitch to this point, right? That's the joining point. Cut a thread. So we can trim it off, we can leave it off in case of any adjustments. Then tuck it out to come out in this form. And then push your scissors inside, push it inside this way. And then once it's done in that way, you now make sure it's properly balanced for balancing inside. You have to go and iron out, and then for the smaller sleeve, just fold with the 2 inches you have already ironed out, then stitch it all through this way. So after that, you also tuck it out and then pack the two sleeves with a loose stitch. You can use a hand needle to do this if you want, or can use your machine loose stitch to hold that properly. So after which you make sure that the length is equal or are equal. So you pack it properly this way. Make sure it's half an inch or thereabouts, or 3/4 inch or 1 inch loose stitch. Just hold it nicely there. And then after that, the next you do now is you have to hold here. You hold that edge and then stitch inside by half an inch. So stitch it half an inch inside, then cut a thread. Alright, so now after this you bring the lining. So now after this now you are meant to match the lining this way with the sleeve. That's the two sleeves lining. Then match the lining this way. Make sure it's properly matched this way. Trying to get exact points where I am going to work from. Arrange the edge. Make sure they are equal. Please make sure you do this, so don't jump this stage. Make sure you do this. Don't jump this stage. Make sure the lines are corresponding. Every line must correspond. Every line must be aligning properly. So once it has aligned properly this way, now you um, arrange it properly. Then you reduce the excesses more, just to make sure it's not that big at the sides. Just half an inch or quarter inch is what you need at the end of the day. So you trim out this area, and then making sure it's aligning. You also trim the downside. Make sure you don't cut the fabric or don't cut the fabric, please. So trim it off, and then after this, you're now going to iron nicely and make sure it's nicely done. Then you place your fabric pieces on top. Place your fabric on top as well. Sprinkle water on it, and then you iron as shown. You iron as shown. So make sure it's properly done. Iron nicely as shown. Then after this, you place it properly. Iron. The ironing is very much needed so that everything will be relaxed and giving you a perfect finishing or perfect fitting in my wish, right? So now arrange this one as well. You also iron. Sprinkle water that way. You iron all through this way. Then cool the iron, cool the heat. Alright, so now trying to join the lining of the sleeve to the sleeve. Now what you will do here now is to make sure you bring out your lining this way, the fabric, then place it on top that way, right? Make sure you use the corresponding edge, then open it up from the base, and then you stitch half an inch or quarter inch rather. You stitch all through that way, stitch all through that way, stitch all through that way. So when you are through with that, you look at how the stitching is done inside of the vent, right? And then make sure you don't climb on top of the vent. You must stitch and stop at the side edge opening. At the side edge opening, stitch out through this way. So when you are done with this, now you have it in this results. Then you fold it to align the lining, aligning with the lining, while the fabric is trying to align with the fabric as well. Then start from there. Start from the sleeve parts, the main sleeve parts, and stitch. Use 3/4 inch to lock, because that's the allowance left if you have used my method of sleeve cutting. So use 3/4 inch to lock this all through. So lock it all through the end. Then after which you also lock the lining. Make sure you do them one after the other, right? Very important. One after the other. Join them one after the other. So this is how to join the lining. Then you join all through this way. Then make sure you cut off any excesses at this point. Then do the same thing on the other sleeve as well. So I'll also show this in case there's something you missed in the first sleeve, so that you don't get confused we when you're making your own. So trying to make sure everything is properly aligning, right? So just take your time and do this. It will come out very well. So now I'm trying to also do this. Then must make sure you align it properly. It must be held that way. Then you keep it down this way. Then the next we will do now is stitch from here, inside half an inch that way. Also make sure that the linings you took to piece on the sleeve must be the corresponding lining, because it must rhyme about the edge, the sleeve, cup, and everywhere. It must rhyme properly. So if it didn't rhyme, please kindly lose the lining and fix the corresponding one. Please, very important. The lining must mirror each other at the back. So the fronts must mirror each other, so that once you turn it over, it still fits in properly. So stitch inside to this point. That point the joining is. Then you stop there and then jump these parts, jump these parts. Also do from the other side as well. So you carefully do this. Make sure the sewing comes from the point where the joining of the side opening of the sleeve is. So stitch all through this way. Cut the threads, cut the threads. Arrange it properly. Then still sew the sleeve to the quarter inch, right? To the quarter inch. Thread it all through this way. Thread all through this way. And then make sure you sew all through to the end. After this, you're also going to sew the other um, lining, right? That's the corresponding lining. Cut the threads and then sew all through this way. So thread all through. Make sure that the sleeve joining is facing the lining, right? It must face inside. Thread all through this way. Then we are done with the sleeve. So cut your threads, and then cut the edges. Cut here properly, and then the next we will do is the lining of the body, right? That the interfacing, the facing, right? The facing. So we just bring it out this way. Then we are trying to dip the pockets. So this is what we will do next before we proceed. Now, in dipping the pockets, you must make sure you place it, that part you folded, the part you folded must be placed in a way that is lapping half an inch across the line that you have marked, half an inch across the line, because that will be where your threading will fall on to enable you have a half-inch pocket opening or dipping, right? So I am targeting the line under which I have marked. This is where I'm targeting. So make sure you stitch there nicely, stitch there nicely, stitch there nicely, right? Stitch all through this way. Then you are going to open it up this way. As you can see how the little gap that is left on that line. So also place this one. You can trim a little bit, trim it out a little bit, trim it out a little bit, and then push it in underneath this way. Use the up one, push it in. The one I first ran thread on is the down one, then mesh it lapping. Then start from here, that same line, right? Very important. Please note importantly how it was placed. I will also show it on the second pocket dipping for the inner lining for you to also see it properly. Then stitch there properly. So now make sure you stop at the point where you have your marking done for the pocket opening, right? Then cut your threads. Cut your threads. Now cross check the size. If there's any difference now, you can correct it. I think it's okay. So what I will do now is to fold, open it up, then try to bend it this way, then notch it at the middle, not at the middle, right? Make sure you don't notch the lining, notch only the body of the suit at the middle, then cut in this form, then give it V cuts when approaching 1 inch to the edge of the threading. V cuts that way, V cuts, also cut here, V cuts this way, and then also cut here as well. Then give that V cut, also give here a V cut, right? So just make sure you take your time to do all of this. Cut them properly. Then after this, the next you will do now is to push it in. Don't forget that this pocketing will be used as well for the pocket mouth and the lining as well. So you don't need to cut the pocketing again. So this is used like 2 in 1. It serves for both the dipping and the pocket mouth and the pocketing, right? So arrange it properly this way and then see the results. See the results, see how it's coming out. As you can see how neatly positioned, right? This is how yours as well should be. There should be no difference or no rough finishing. Then hold the angular notch in there and then make sure you thread very close to the edge of the fabric with the angular notching. Start from there and thread all across. Thread 3 or 4 times in order not to allow it to pull off later on. So this is how the finishing should look like. See how relaxed it is. Then do the other edge as well. Make sure you carefully balance your own. Yours must be as balanced as this. Drag it out properly. Raise it up this way. Make sure it's balanced and relaxed, right? Then you thread it in this form. So when you are doing this, please kindly make sure you retain a neat finishing objective, right? Just make sure you can still make this and it comes out well once you follow the process I am trying to explain for you here. So now so this is how it looks like, right? I'll also do this on the other side for you to also see, or maybe in a fast track video. But I like dipping the both pockets first before I lock so that I will have a clearer view of the finishing as well. So now the next thing to do here is to iron. Then you make sure you place fabric on top of the main material and iron out all the sewn areas. And when ironing this, you also need to be careful of it so that you don't get to burn the fabric here. So now this is the inside, is the button attachment that we use to attach the button, right? So maybe just say 6 inches length by 7 inches width, then fold in an angular form. Fold in an angular form is just kind of a fancy you use to attach the fancy button on the inside suit. Then fold in an angular form this way. Cool. Then trim the excesses off. Trim the excesses off. Then you can have it in this form. Then this will be used as a fancy to beautify this. Then you place it this way inside the pocket in this form. Then you program it in order for it to come out to the point where you need. So 2 inches or thereabout is ideal. So after that, you take hemming gum and hem it on it. Then so take hemming gum and hem it on it. Then after which you iron out properly. Yeah, and then iron out through this way. Make sure it's properly ironed. Then after that, now so you iron out all through this way. Then cut the excesses at the inside. Just cut it off. Cut the excesses inside. So after this, now you also do, okay, you have ironed the other one. So let's go now to the table to sew. Then trying to close the inner lining, right? So there's no need to turn it over. Just stitch it all around since it has lining that will cover the whole body. Just stitch all around that way. All right, so now let's stitch all through this way. All right, so you just close the up area as well, as you can see. Just close the up area as well. Then stitch this way in order to seal that edge nicely. Stitch all through that way in order to seal that edge nicely. Then lock all around. Lock all around. Lock all around. Then cut the excesses. Then lock here as well. And then you cut the excesses. So this is how to seal the lining of the inner fabric as interfacing, right? The facing. So and then cut the excesses in this form. Then after which this is how we are done with this. So this is just the very fine and very nice. Look at the finishing, right? So this is the finishing we have here. So we are going to do the same thing on the other side as well. So just lock it up that way. Lock the upsides and lock the sides, and you're done. Trim the excesses, and then you're done with this. So now at this point, you will have to iron out the fabric properly. Iron out all through this way. Iron out all through this way, and then you open press. You must see open press. The open pressing must be done in a way that is lapping all through. Both the sleeve and the lining must correspond. So you open press, it will lap all through this way. Very, very important. So after this now, you also do the same thing on the second sleeve, right? Also note importantly how I gummed the sleeve edge. 4 inches on the sleeve edge is very important as well. Then you also iron everything, then drag it in this way, drag it in this way, then fling it. It comes in this form. So you have achieved your sleeve lining fixing, right? So this is how it is. Then you also take pieces of fabric to iron all of this. So once you're done with this, you think you're okay. So trying to iron all through this way. So you iron, sprinkle water, and then you iron. So now, when you have gotten to this stage, you do the same thing on the other sleeve as well. We are trying to iron the downside of the suit with the lining. After you must have sewn, then you bring it up this way, fold the 2 inches this way, iron out properly this way. Now the lining will be folded 2.5 or 3 because the lining and the suit will not be the same length, right? So you have to fold it in a way that you will have the lining to be bit much folded than the men's suits. Then you now use your thread for guiding. Now this guiding is very important so that it will help you relax the lining before you fix or trim to the exact size you want, and then subsequently you join the sides with the front panel before you proceed to the other stage. So tie the thread in this form and then guide the base. So make sure you have a loose stitch all through there. It's just for you to hold this very well so that it doesn't push or stitch more or trim more than you should have trimmed. You also guide this one as well. Then make sure you guide properly this way. Guide the both of them. Guide all through this way. The guiding will be a loose stitch. It's very important so that it doesn't shift from the original position you have um, programmed it to be. Then after this stage now, you have to iron the lining and have that printing or the folding needed, which is very important because you are not meant to slit the back panel. It will have a fold which will adjust to the customer's body when he puts it on. So you must make sure you iron out properly this way, and then after which you open it up and then have the folding that is needed at the back. This is very important as well, so that your lining will not be shorter than it should. So you fold in this form. Please make sure your ears take similar look, right? Must take similar look. You fold in this form. Fold in this form. Then after which you lap it properly this way. Then look at how it's coming out. See how fine the back panel is. So you need to take your time to do this properly and carefully. Don't be in a haste. So it's now time for me to trim my lining to give me the recommended size I want. So you will make sure you iron out nicely. So make sure that the lengths of the vents must be equal, right? It must be equal to this very best. Then arrange the back panel nicely so that it gives you this finishing. Then you have to trim the lining, but not to trim at exact position. You have to still guide it with your thread in order to have a perfect relaxation on the neck region. So you have to guide here this way. Just a loose stitch is all you need there. 2 or 3 times stitching is enough, right? So just guide it in this form. So once you're done with this, you cut your thread that way, and then you arrange it properly. Arrange it properly. This is how it must be. So the lining must be way wider than the men's suit, right? So that it doesn't shrink or compress the clothes. So you're now going to trim any excesses here. Now trimming a little bit bigger, like 1/4 inch bigger at the down, and then 1 inch towards the armhole area or thereabouts. Then still trim all through this way. Trim all through that way. And then still make sure you also trim the shoulder line. You also trim the shoulder line all through this way. Trim the neck region 1 inch as well. Up. Trim it all through this way. And then make sure you don't cut off that inch you held down on the panel. Then give that inch here there off, right? Leave that neckline to be a bit higher there. Don't trim it out because it will help to hold the suit when fixing. So just trim to these very points. Relax the fabric nicely and trim the same thing as well on this edge. So trim all through this way again, right? So make sure you have it like 3/4 inch. Leave a little gap, right? So that it doesn't shrink the main lining to the suits. Leave it up that way. So you're done with this. So you fold it in this form. Now you're going to bring. Now we are trying to join the sides. We're trying to join the sides. So what we do here now is to join from here. Then join the sides of this, the sides front panel of the suits. Make sure you start from the down and join right. Start from the down, join all through this way. You must join this first before you start dipping the pockets. So join all through that way. So now I have joined this way. So I'm trying to also notch the hairstay from that point we originally notched the main fabric. Notch the hairstay backwards that way so that I can fix my dart properly. So making sure you notch all through to that whole length you have created your darts. Then after this, the next thing to do is to place a dart this way. You place a dart, you start from there and lock up the darts. Um, Lock up properly from the other edge so that it doesn't give a squeeze, right? So start from middle, lock the darts halfway, so that it doesn't have a squeeze at the down point, right? So start from there to lock the darts, to lock all through this way. So after which, the next thing to do here now is to do the same thing on the other sleeve. Right, so now I am joining the other side. You must have made sure as well you hold it properly so that it doesn't spill over, right? So carefully stitch all through. Carefully stitch all through. And then once you are going, you arrange the down. Make sure it's aligning. Make sure the down is aligning, right? So stitch all through that way. So you also notch um, the hairstay. So once the hairstay is properly notched, you are going to still do the same that we did at the first stage. Like I said, start from the middle of the back, sorry, the middle of the dart, that way, so that it doesn't have a squeeze at the tip. Start from the midpoint, stitch all through that way, and make sure that your dart is flushing properly. Your dart must flush properly, right? Then turn it the other way around and finish your darts from the other side. Make sure as well it's flushed properly and make sure that the length of the darts are equal with the first one and the other one you did. So now you sprinkle water on that and then the side joinings and then you iron out properly. So make sure you do this. This is going to help you achieve a neater finishing. Everything about sewing or joining is all about sewing and ironing everything you have sewn. Also note how I am going to open press my darts, then use hairstay as well to lock it down in order to flatten the dart very well without having much rumples, right? So
This is how it's coming out. So I will gently do this. I will open press from here. I will open press from here. Open press all through that way. Open press all through that way. And then making sure that everything is nicely ironed out before I proceed. So I also iron out the dart lines. Make sure you press properly so that the dart line, there will be no tension there. Iron properly, and then the next you do now is to compress. You sprinkle water on it, and then you compress. You are going to cut off the excess, the allowances of the dart that is left with your scissors, so that it can relax properly. But before then, just iron it properly this way. Iron all through this way. Iron all through that way, and then open press. Make sure that end and the beginning is properly ironed, right? It's properly ironed. Apply pressure there. Apply pressure there. Make sure it's properly ironed. Iron all through that way. Then once you are done the ironing, you are going to bring another hairstay and cut in a square form and lap it at that edge where the dart ended. Now, this will help to flatten this edge properly. It will help to flatten that edge properly. You sprinkle water on it, and then you also iron. You also iron all through, iron all through, iron all through, iron all through. So this is the finishing at the outside, right? Look at how relaxed it's looking, right? So now you're also going to finish the other edge as well. So you iron that way proper as well, and then you iron all through. Make sure it's properly ironed. Iron all through, and then after this, the next you also do is you also bring hairspray and also lock that edge. So I'm trying to bring a piece of fabric to iron the whole body of the darted area, or the area you joined at the side of the front panel. So once you iron all through all of these places, I think you are also arriving at a finished work. Then this something I did here is what I also do on the other side of the suit. Then before we go to the next stage. Now we are trying to fold the down part of the suit. Then you are going to mark 2 inches as well. The 2 inches we used in the drafting, right? So you mark 2 inches there. Then you are going to fold this way. So this same folding is what we also do on the other side, right? It must be 2 inches. So you iron out all through that way, but the down will be a bit curvy towards the front side. You will slope it by half an inch. That's 1.5 or thereabout on the front panel. You iron properly. Then after that, you also do the same thing on the other side. So now after that, the next thing you do now is to mark out the lines for your pockets. Then trying to mark the base straight up that way. Just using the tape as my ruler at the edge. So now you mark the pocket position, which is 6.5, from that thread guiding, which we did. Then mark it all through that way. Then you take the left panel for your breast pocket. Don't forget that what you use for breast pocket is the left panel and not the right. So you bring the left panel for the breast pocket. You also bring it out from that line, which the thread guiding was needed. Bear in mind that it must be slashed, it must be slopy, dipping down from the armhole down to the belly side or the chest side. Then after this, you also do the pocket side, and then let's now go to dip the pockets on our machine.
All right, so now we are trying to dip the pockets. So you bring the pocket mouth, which we have done with our gum step, then face it down that way, face it down that way. Make sure you push it like 3/4 inch off from the line. Then target that line you have marked, right? Target the line you have marked. Then place it 3/4 inch as well above the line or below the line, that below the line now, because of the finishing you might want to get. Then you also make sure you stitch straight up. Then the stitching must be straight enough. You go all through and end it at the point where you have marked out your pocket opening. So don't exceed that way. All right, so now you cut out this edge and make sure it's properly cut out. Then trim out the edge. So we are going to use only one piece of this. All right, so now you bring your material, the one edge of this, then trim this edge, trim it properly this way. Make sure it's straight enough. You need only like 1.5 inch there. Then raise it up this way. Then place it underneath, right? Underneath the side that has the hole will be on top. Then thread it the same inch you use at that base. So place it that way. Make sure you properly calculate it very well. So place this way, and then take your time to balance it properly, and then you are going to thread it nicely. So balance it properly this way, and then you thread from here, you thread from here, you thread all through from here. You thread from there, then cut your threads, cut your threads, cut your threads properly. Then make sure the lines are corresponding, right? So after this, the next thing you do now is to slit. You open it up properly, then split the midpoints. Split the midpoints. Split the midpoints. Then notch that point. Then notch that point. Make sure you notch at the point where the thread ended, right? Don't exceed the threaded point. Make sure you notch where the thread ended. So also do the same thing on the other side as well. Make sure you open up the plackets for the pocket, right? So cut and then 1 inch or 3/4 inch up. Then you notch in a V-shape form. Make sure it's lapping where the pocket ended. It must be done in this format. Then notch all through that way. Notch all through this way. Then make sure you carefully observe this to make sure it's at exact point. Please be careful while doing this, right? You need to be extra careful here. Then after this, you tuck in the plackets in, then bring the one on top down in order to achieve this finishing, right? So just how this is done. So make sure that you handle the edges nicely. You have to drag it very well for it to lap and flush very well. Then after that, you have to stitch the angular effects on that edge. You stitch it properly that way. Then after this, make sure you drag it very well. Don't be in a haste. Gradually do this. This is how I am doing mine. As you can see how it's kind of being a bit difficult, but you need to do it in this manner so that you achieve a better or the same result. So stitch it all through that way. So after this now, next we will do now is to see look at how it came out, see how neatly finished it came out. Then we are also going to stitch the other edge properly as well. Then we also do the same process we did at the onset, at the beginning of the pockets, align very well. Then they want to balance it properly. If you have any issue there, you have to lose and correct. But then if there's no issue, you have to proceed with your normal sewing. So if you have any issue, you bring it out and re-notch to make sure the notching is exact point where the thread ended, because that is what might cause any hitches in the pocket um, relaxation. So you notch it all through that way and make sure you bring it out in this form. And then once you bring it out in this form, it's relaxed now. So you can see how I'm taking my time to do this for us to see. Then fold all through that way, and then you also thread it. So this is one of the simplest ways, I think, and most convenient method you can use in doing this as well. So thread all through that way. So after this now, you're now going to iron and do the other pocket as well before you proceed to the next stage. Alright, so now we are trying to do the breast pocket. Now remember, we used hairstay to gum the pocket tip, and that tip will serve us both for the tip and for the pocketing as well. So I'm trying to trim out the edges properly, making sure that there is no debris of hairstay on the mouth. Then the gumming was done like at least 4 to 5 inches, right? At least 4 to 5 inches. So once you are done with the gum with the trimming, you are going to place the tip of that pocket mouth at the mouth that way. Then stitch in this form. Then make sure you are stitching at least half an inch down, at least half an inch down. Then stitch all through across. Then after this, you cut your thread, you cut your threads, cut your threads, and then you also bring the other side. The other side is ungummed, right? No, it's two pieces, but we gummed one panel only. So the other part is ungummed, place it on top. The one gummed is placed at the under, right? So place on top and then you stitch. Then make sure as well you stitch all through this way in a slashed form this way, and then it may not be exact of the length of the first one you have threaded. This one will just be to tack it down like 3 inches down. The first down stitching is going to be the real pocket size. Then cut your threads and then cut your threads this way. Then you are going to iron. So trying to iron out the pocket mouth. So you always sprinkle water on it. Then place a fabric. Please note importantly, you must place fabrics on the front panel before you iron. This is very good. This is going to be very important in order to save the surface of this fabric not to shine or have iron reflective nature there. So make sure it's ironed out properly. So as you can see how it's coming out. So you are going to guide it with loose stitch as well in order to hold it firmly before you proceed to the next stage. So you make sure you iron out all through this way, as you have seen, or as you can see, I'm doing this now. Then, after which, the next thing to do here is to iron the next one as well. Then put every other places that needs ironing in form before you proceed to the next stage. So this is going to be one of the most tasking areas or aspects of this sewing, to iron all through all you are doing. So see how relaxed it's giving us now. Don't forget that we have not fixed the pocketing, which I also show you how it's been fixed, and also the pocket cover. I'll also show you how all of those will be fixed as we progress in this video. Now, I've ironed out all through everything. So let's now notch our front breast pockets. So I'll iron out here again. Then after this, I will now notch the breast pockets and then form the pocket mouth. So I will fold this way and then make sure it's folded rightly at the middle. And then after that, the next thing you do is to place your scissors inside, then notch the center part or the center points. And then after that, make sure you are not notching the pocketing, that the tips of the pocket. Then place your scissors inside that way, cut straight, then 1 inch off to that point, you give it a V notch, right? Give it a V notch. The plackets we are not notched alongside the main body's notching. So give it a V notch. Give this one as well a V notch. Give it as well a V notch. Then after this V notch points, the next to do now is to notch the other area as well. Then you proceed. Notch here as well. Notch this other area as well. Then after the two notches this way and that way, you proceed. Then make sure everything is coming out. Then you start forming or arranging your pocket mounts. So you're going to take your time in doing this. Don't be in a haste. So carefully arrange all of this. That's why I'm showing the full video so that you won't think it was that easy, right? So it's carefulness and detailing. So you bring it out. So trying to iron out properly. So once you are done ironing out this one nicely this way, now the next thing to do here now is to pull it, and then you will now raise it up again, and then make sure that the underneath one is properly balanced as well. Then open press that point, open press the down area, push the placket up this way, and then you are going to open press all of this. So you're going to open press all of this. So make sure the open pressing is properly done. Then once you are done with the compressing, it's helping you as well to fold these pockets, right? So it's going to be kind of, you're folding 1/2 inch on both ends, right? So you fold 1/2 inch this way on both ends, you iron all through this way. Then after this, you have to bring it out to this form, and then you turn it over this way. So make sure that this folding is nicely done that way. Then you sprinkle water, place the fabric on top, you iron nicely, and then you're going to form the main pocket. 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 So once you have gotten to this stage, we are now trying to form the main pockets. So carefully watch how I am going to do this. Carefully watch how I am going to do this. So I'm measuring out 1 inch or 1/4 or 1/8, 1 inch or 1/8. Sorry. Let me use my main tape. So let me use my main tape. So measure out 1/8 this way. You measure, mark there. You know, the pocket mouth is not straight. It's going to be, one edge will be higher, one edge will be lower, right? So here you also measure out, this is 1/8. So you measure out 1
1/4 at that edge. Then after which you rule the line. After which you rule the line will be ruled in this form so that it goes straight. Then this line is what we use in folding the main pocket tip, because this is going to be a bit wider or bigger pocket tip, unlike the normal inner waist pockets application. So you iron all across. You iron all across this way, and then after this now, you also cool it. Then after the cooling, the next thing to do as well is to fold the edges so that it gives you a perfect fitting inside the pocket. Then you cross check what you have folded, and then you're going to fold from the line. You're going to fold from that line. Make sure you fold from the line. So you're going to cut off some excesses underneath there. You're going to cut some excesses underneath there. You're kind of giving it a notch-like effect so that it can fold properly. Then also notch here as well. So notch here as well. Then you also make sure you cut it off in this form in order to give it space to relax, right? So this is how you're going to dip it in. To make sure the notching is nicely done. I'm trying to cut off the inside debris, right? So I am going to now fold this way, and then I'll arrange it properly. Arrange underneath properly. And then after which I will now make sure everything is in place. Then I will still bring my piece of fabric, place on top to iron. And then after this, the next thing to do here is to iron all through this. You iron all through this. You iron all through this. Iron all through this. The next to do now is to fold this inside. See how the folding is done? Fold on that same line, right? Make sure the line has not cleaned. Then fold on that same line. Then press it as well. So you iron out properly the folding this way. Iron the folding properly this way. Then cool it properly. Then after this, the next thing to do as well is to fold the other edge as well. Also be in mind the same line of folding is what you're going to use. The same line of folding, the same pattern of folding, right? So the pocket is not going to be straight, except you wish to have it straight. But then this is the standard way to position your suit breast pocket, right? But if you want to make it straight, it's your choice. You have the reasons. So you make sure it's done in this format. Then iron as well properly. Iron as well properly. Then once your ironing is done properly, the next thing to do now is to cool it. Then after which you are going to now cut off the excesses inside. But before then, you have to thread it first before you cut the excesses. So this is how it's going to be done.
All right, so now we are trying to thread the inner breast pocket. So this is where we have gotten to. Please make sure you don't thread on top. Your threading must be done inside. So you have to hold it down firmly and then open it up that way. and then drag it open. Make sure it doesn't shift. Then thread inside the line where your folding was made, right? Where your folding was made, thread inside the line that way. Thread only on that placket point. Don't exceed that point. Then after this, cut your threads, cut your threads. This is how it should look like. Then after this, the next to do now is to also thread the other one. The same procedure, clip it down properly, make sure it's not moving, right? Possibly you can use your thread to guide or pin to pin, however, so that you can have a firm grip of it. So grip it up this way, grip it well this way, you drag it open, right? You drag it open, then thread on the line of the iron, thread on the line of the iron, thread on that line where you have ironed the plackets. So once you're done threading that, I think you are done fixing this. So use your scissors and cut. So you make sure it comes out in this form. Now the next thing to do here is to cut off the excesses here. Cut it out. Cut here out as well. Then you cut it out in this form. Cut in a V-shaped form. So once you are cut out this V-shaped form, then your pockets will be done this way. Then you are still going to trim off a bit. Trim one panel. Slit it from the open, right? Slit from the open. Trim one piece of it. Trim one piece of it. The one that has the protrusion at the front. So trim the excesses in this form. Carefully don't cut off the threads you have sewn. Then you will now have to fold their in this way. Fold it down in order so that it doesn't um, disturb you when you're trying to finish. So fold it down that way, and then you thread it down. You thread it down. So you are going to sew it in that V-shaped form. So thread it in that V-shaped form. Then after that, the next to do now is to lock the inner pocket in, which is the last part of this breast pocket. So you cut it out in this form, cut in this form, and then you have it coming out this way. So lock the underneath tongue so that it doesn't push in when you dip your hand in the breast pocket, right? So lock the underneath tongue, lock it that way, lock all through that way. So after this, the next we'll do now, cut your threads, and then we are going to also lock the sides straight up this way. So lock it round, as you can see. Just it's not going to be too deep. Let's just say 4 inches, 5 inches deep is enough. Adding to the trimming at the pocket mouth. So trim, trim, trim. So trim, 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 trim all through. Then this is all you need to do on your inner breast pockets, right? So this is how it looks. So I believe this video must have explained to you how this breast pocket position is, and then this is the finishing, right? So let's now go to the next stage. Now for the next stage, we are bringing the lining to the plackets. The lining will be on the plackets. Then you thread them out. You thread them out. In order for you to attach the mark nicely, this is how you thread it. Then you fold it down and top stitch, right? Fold it down and top stitch. Then after this now, the next thing to do here is to lock it at the upside. Just fold it down. This one is just simple as that. Right? Bear in mind that the pocketing should not be too deep, right? It should not be too deep nor too small. So the measurement I told us in the cutting stage is what we're going to use to dip to attach to this. Now don't forget that there's no need filling the lining since you're going to put full lining at the main body. Then cut off the threadings, and then lock the upside, lock the downside, and you're done with this. So you also do the same thing on the other side. Make sure that your threading is coming very close to the side where your front, your placket ending is. So cut off the excesses that way, and then you are going to leaving it open for the cover, right? So the upside will be left open for the cover. So that is what we use the cover for. Then we are going to form the cover now. Let's do the other one as well. Then I will show you how the cover is being formed. So now I am done locking the sides. So this is what I want to do. I want to now program the pocket cover, right? So you have to measure out all of this exact edge where you have your finishing. So use your pocket cover placket and place. Mark the edges so you know where your threading will be, so that the cover will not be wider or smaller than the main pocket. Then you have to measure out, draw out the straight line at that place in order for you to know the exact line to mark. Then 2 3/4 is what I use in my cover measurement. Then the width I have here to 6.5, exact of the pocket opening. Then also apply it there, 6.5 this way. Then also mark a straight line using my tape as a straight line. Then mark a straight line this way, and then also mark 2 3/4 in this form. Then also make sure you mark a straight line from there. You can use your ruler or your tape as your straight line, however, it's still very much okay. Then mark out through that way. So once you are done with this now, the next thing you are going to do now is to do the same thing on the other side. Then you're going to cut the lining, make sure you know the left and right. Then you're trying to know the left and the right part of this part. Then you curve this way. Now this curving will be for the right panel. The curve should face the button allowance side, while the inner place should be straight, right? So use the same thing as well on this other side, making sure that when you place down the plackets, the cover of the pocket, the curve area should be facing toward the buttonhole allowance, the opening of the suit center panel. They also do the same thing on the other side, marking out properly this way. So also mark a straight line from there. Then after which you also draw the straight line, then mark 2 3/4 as well for the pocket cover size, then 6.5 as well. Then also return the same measurement on this other side. And then after which, the next to do now is to make sure you also check the curvy area where should come first and where should be next, right? So you have 2 3/4 there, 2 3/4 there. Then you also draw the line with your ruler or with your tape. However, it's still going to give us the same thing. Then connect the lines accordingly in this form. And then after this, you're going to also cross-check the curvy area, which is the pocket point. Then you curve from there, you curve from there, you curve from there, curve from there, curve all through from there, in order for you to be perfect in your sewing, right? So don't make sure you don't exchange them. So you now bring lining, and then you bring the lining and make sure the right faces are mirroring each other. Then place it this way, and then you thread. Make sure you thread nicely, and then curve it properly, right? Curve it very well. Don't make the curve to be much. curve it very well, curve all through that way, curve all through this way, curve all through that way, and then make sure you pin at the exact point you have your 6.5 for the opening. Then thread this way. Please note how the lining is facing the real face of the opening, right? So thread all through that way. Then cut off the excesses. Cut very close, very very close. Cut the excesses. Cut all through this way. Cut very close to this point. You don't need to leave much allowance at this stage. So after you must have cut out this, you also do the same thing on the other side. Now I am going to iron out this when I turn it off, then notch them out the tips so that it doesn't give you any hardness in turning. So place this as well, and then repeat the same sewing process. Alright, so now you have sewn the both pocket cover. So what I will do now is I will bring white thread and guide it. I will guide it because you need to guide it first to make sure that the lining will not show from the front. So you guide it properly, making sure that the lining is balanced very well. So guide all through this way, guide all through that way, guide all through this way. Make sure that the lining is not showing, right? So guide all through that way. So you have to guide all across to the end. Do the same thing on the other pocket cover as well. So now you're done with the threading. So you cut off any excesses at this point. You also make sure you press properly in order to make it lap as you should, right? So this is very, very important. Don't forget to do all of this when you're making yours. So iron, make sure you iron properly. So you press down, use the cooler to cool. Press down, use the cooler to cool. So please carefully do this and make sure you learn you do this very well without having more challenges. Don't forget that the pocket doesn't need to be sealed, you just need to be threaded round. Leave the rough edge to the inside because lining will cover everything inside. So after this, you also see how neatly finished our breast pocket is, right? So you place a ball, if you have this, you place it underneath and then bring a piece of fabric also place on top, a very soft fabric, then so that you can iron this way. So this ironing must be done on top of a soft fabric, or you can use pieces of fabric to form this. Just place this way and then you iron. It gives you a softer and a more perfect finishing touches, right? So finish all through that way. Then afterwards you iron all through this way. So you also iron the cover from the back lining. The cover must be ironed properly. You iron all through this way. So you have to be intentional about every other process or protocols you're undertaking to achieve a perfect sewing, right? So achieve all through this way. Then you now place fabric on top and iron out properly as well. So do the same thing on the other pocket cover as well. Alright, so now we're trying to fix the pocket cover. So make sure you mark 1 and 1/4, 3/4 or 1/3 or 2 inches, then 2 inches here, right? So you have to mark 2 inches one edge and 1/3 or 2 inches as well. So make sure it's properly marked, then place it inside. Then please note how I am going to fix this. So cut hemming gum, tuck it underneath this way, tuck the hemming gum underneath this way, and then bring it down, then you place fabric on top, and then you iron, you iron. Later on, you go and stitch it from the inside. You iron all through this way. Now, once you have ironed perfectly well, you also do the same thing on the other pocket cover as well before you go and sew it. Alright, so now we are trying to trim out the excesses and then make sure you have a perfect finishing on the lining segment. Right, so I'm trying to trim off this lining this way, so making sure it's giving me the exact size I want. So also try to trim out this area as well. So you have to take a time. So while doing this, so give here at least 2 inches at the 1.5 inch on the armhole area. Cut all through this way as well. Cut all through that way as well. Then we are done with this. Now the next stage we are trying to do now is to cut our padding that we use to pad the shoulder area. So this is very much important as well. So you fold into two because we are going to have a two-way padding. Please note how it's being placed. So it's not going to be positioned only, it's not going to affect the lapel. It's going to stay away from the lapel. So this is how the padding will be positioned. Then you cut out this point. You cut out this point, then open it up this way, and then you make sure you measure from the shoulder point to 15 or 16 inches. So this is 14. 14 is okay. Then cut in this curvy form for the padding, right? So this is how the padding will be. Then you are going to place it again this way. You place it again this way. Trim all through to this point, and then trim as well this way. So you slit all through this way. So slit all through this way. So slit all through this way. So once you're done with this, now the next thing to do now is to bring the corresponding components. It's not importantly that we have 4 padding, right? So you bring your hemming gum and then place across this way. Remember that we are trying to join 2 paddings to be one before we put on the clothes, right? So you first of all pad it together this way, as in pad 2 to form 1. Then before you can gum, please note how I'm doing this. I did not gum it on top of each other like on the clothes. I gum the paddings together first before I fix it on the main body of the outfit. So you now then make sure you use your fabric to place on top of the padding before you gum. You know, this padding is kind of sticky, so it don't allow it to stick on the surface of the iron. So place fabric on top and gum accordingly, right? So it must be gummed properly in this way. So place it down here as well. So you also gum here nicely as well. So you must double it first before you can fix it on the cloth. Please make sure you don't gum it in line with the cloth, please. We are going to use hairspray to hold it. Now make sure that the reason I am doubling this because it's kind of light. So if you happen to buy the thicker one, you use only 1 piece of this, right? Don't use 2. But I think I still prefer this 2 because it won't give you much weight on the shoulder or the chest region, right? So just gum properly. Then after which, the next thing to do here is to make sure you iron out all the panels. Make sure it's properly ironed. You iron out all through this way, then iron all through this way. So once you are done with this, the next thing to do here now is to make sure every other area is gummed, right? So we are going to use hairstay to attach this on the main body of the suit. Please watch how it's being attached. So you are going to place this way. It should be away from the lapel folding. Not importantly, it should be lapping at the neck region, right? So you make sure it covers the pockets. Then bring your scissors. So you bring your hairstay, and then you make sure you cut out a sizable measurement, which I will show you now. Let me cut it out and show you. You bring the hairstay and then lap it this way, trying to trim off excesses, and then maybe 3 inches hairstay, 4 inches would be ideal. Then you make sure you cut it out in this one. Then fine tune the edge there. Make sure it's not that protruding. Then place it maybe lapping above or across the hairstay by 1.5. Then sprinkle water on it, and then you iron nicely. So you iron nicely. So you iron nicely. So you iron nicely. So do the same thing as well on the other side. But before you do that, you have to trim off the excesses, right? So trim off the excesses. Trim off the excesses at this point. And then see how the padding effects came out, giving you that perfect finishing you might have been craving for. So trim off the excesses. Then have it nicely ironed. Have it nicely ironed. Have it nicely ironed. Then also mark out this. Iron out this, sorry. Iron out this. So see how I'm placing the fabric on top to iron. You don't allow the hairstay edge to show. So try to iron there smoothly in order to flush that edge properly, right? So iron there smoothly. Don't allow the tresses to show. So iron there smoothly. Iron there smoothly. And cool it as well. Then this is how it will be. It's kind of lapping now. Then the lapel will now fold backwards. So I'm also going to carefully trim out this other one as well. Now we are trying to base the edge of the armhole area where the hairstay was where the just gone gone button was fixed. So see how I'm stitching it, one front this way. So just basing it properly, making sure that the gun button doesn't pull off, right? So base it properly, base it properly, base it properly. Make sure you give it a tiny stitch this way so that it can hold it firmly, right? So you must use your hand to do this. Don't use your machine, please. Then tie it properly. So once you are okay with that, so this is the basement we are talking about. So the next thing to do here now is to trim off the excesses, as you can see. So trim out the excesses in this form. Trim out the excesses in this form. Trim it out properly. Trim out through this way. Then after you must have trimmed it, you can still cut off some excess of the hairstay coming across the joining point of the side panel. Then also trim the up area. Also trim any excess coming out this way. Very important, right? Then trim the neck region as well. So this is how you will do the other one as well. So I will go and do that one and come back to the next stage. All right, so now I'm trying to join the lapel area. So note importantly that before you join, you must have marked out the joining point, which I have done on this one. I will show you the next one when sewing, right? So I am stitching there 2 inches in from there, 2 inches in from there, and then 1.5 or 2, but I'm using 1.5. Then stitching all through that way, then half an inch off. Please note how the sewing started from, right? Then stitch all through this way, and then make sure the two, the facing and the main bodies are corresponding, must correspond all through. You sew all through that way. Make sure you retain the same cutting pattern which you had. Don't change the pattern now. Also note how I am handling the fabric. All right, so now when approaching the down part of this two parts, you are meant to push out the inner facing to come out a bit. The reason of this is because you need the lining to be totally sealed inside without surfacing at the front panel of the suit, right? So the interfacing of the lining will come up by 1/4 inch at this point. Look at how it came out there. Very important as well. So now return the same coordinator there and then stitch all through that way. So see how I stitched it all through this way. Then trying to trim it out in this form. So this is very important. You're just trying to manipulate the placement of the lining so that it should not be visible outside. So cut all through that way. Trim, 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 trim all through that way. All right, so now I'm trying to show you how I mark this one. They mark out half inch there. They also mark out 1/4 inch here for the threading, right? Then measure out 1.5 from the edge of the fabric, 1.1 or 2 inches from the edge of the fabric. So you mark there 1.5 from the edge of the fabric there, 1.5 this way, right? So then you first of all thread it first. You thread it in order to achieve a perfect edge there. Please note importantly, you thread it. Now the down part could be around 4.5 inch or 5 inches down. First thread there. Then after the threading, you make sure it's corresponding this way. And then once you're done with that, you can now start threading the down part of the suit, right? Then after which, you now turn over to the other side and then start from there to join it. It's better sewn from the down, right? From the up to down. So now you must make sure that when sewing this, the facing will be the one on the machine, while the main suit will be on the needle side, right? That the main suit will be on top, while the facing will be underneath. Now, so that it doesn't spill over or drag. So make sure you sew from this direction. In some cases, you might have issues sewing from left, but this is the only way you can achieve it perfectly well. Then make sure you also do the same thing you did at the other side, pushing the main suit 1/2 inch in at the down part. The reason for this is to make sure that it doesn't surface or doesn't come out from the front after sewing, right? So stitch all through that way and maybe probably 1 inch in there or 3/4 inch in, then go down by 1/2 inch from the 2 inches of the folding and then thread all across, right? Thread all across. So this is just how you are going to do this, your joining, and just thread at the edge here. Just thread at the edge, making sure as well that the suit lining is a bit bigger there. Don't thread to the end. Give a little gap, like 4 inches off from the side of the suit. Then after this, you now try to trim off the excesses. Trim off the excesses properly. Make sure that it's properly trimmed. Trim off the excesses properly So then, after you must have trimmed all through, notch these points, notch these points, notch it very well, as you can see. Then trim out from here. This is for the collar, right? For the lapel. The upper area will be used for the collar. Please note importantly. Then trim all across, trim all through, trim all through this way, trim all through this way, trim all through that way. So trim all through this way. Make sure that the trimming is done as shown. Carefully trim out all of this, and this is how you're going to trim. Then after this, you're now going to bring hemming gum to attach. So now we want to thread there the up pockets, that the pocket cover. Don't forget that we have not closed this in that time. So you are now trying to close from there, cover the up area. Don't forget so that you don't have it open. So after which you must have covered that one. You also cover the other one as well, the second pocket area. Make sure it's properly covered. So you lock 2 times so that it doesn't pull off. And after this, you take your hemming gum and then you are going to do the finishing closure here. Now the reason for this is to make sure that when you iron the suit, it will lap properly. In some cases, some persons will use guiding to hold it, but or threading, but I use hemming gum to hold this. Now the holding is coming on the parts where the lining is attached to the facing, right? That curve, that straight line of the curve is where I'm holding. Then apply hemming gum and stitch at the tip of the joining allowance used. The reason for this, like I said, is to make sure that once you iron it, it laps properly on the outfit. The hemming gum will be facing towards the main fabric facing right, and make sure it's not used on the what's it called, on the wrong side. So now you're trying to attach this as well on the down on the hem part. The hem part of the suit is where I am stitching this on, right? Make sure that the line that the thread you're threading now is just going to fall at the other point where it is sewn initially. So cut the excesses that way. Cut the excesses very well, and then make sure you also do the same thing on the up area. So you see where the hemming gum is positioned towards the facing area, while you fling it over and sew from the lining area where it has the lining parts of the facing, right? That's the inner side. So just make sure you follow the process I'm showing you, and take your time as well. And also note that these things must be done before you can boastfully say you have made a perfect suit. So you carefully thread here, and then once you're done with that, you also do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to repeat the same process on the other side as well. So don't forget to lock the other pocket cover right at the up area. So once you lock it, you can sew it once or twice, however be the case. Then trim up the excesses as shown. So once the excesses are being trimmed off, the next thing we do now is to um, attach your hemming gum as well. Attach your hemming gum as well. Attach it from the part where the facing is, then sew from the line position. So do this. You have already seen the first one. I'm just trying to show you this one in case you still have some confusion. So this one will clarify you or give you more insights on what I was trying to explain initially. So now at this stage, I'm trying to turn on notch collar area up. Then make sure you notch the tip there. Then hold it very well. and then notch as much as you can, then fling it. So you put your hand inside this way and drag it out properly. So this is the effect. Then we are going to iron out at this stage. So you also carefully tuck out the tips or the edges, right? Carefully tuck it out. And then the next you will do now is go and base before you start ironing. You must carefully use your needle to bring out the edges properly. Then after that, you are going to base. And most importantly, that you must make use of the smallest needle so that it doesn't leave holes or injuries on the fabric surface, right? So make use of the smallest needle while you base. So basing is just to make sure that those edges came out nicely. This is the essence of basing, right? To make sure that the edges came out nicely before you can iron. So you must use your hand and align the edges properly, making sure that the facing of the other one is a bit bigger at the collar area, while at the downside, the suit material will be a bit bigger so that when you place it very well, the facing will not be visible. Likewise, when you draw out the other one outside. So you carefully do all of this. So you carefully do all of this. See how I'm taking my time to do this, right? So don't be in a haste as well. So make sure that this other area, yes, as you can notice that the inner facing is coming out a bit here. So while at the middle, it will be equal at this bottom area. Then the downside, the interfacing will go in, while the suit will be a bit wider here. You will see the reason when we finish making the suits. I will still explain it on my mannequin for us to understand properly the whole detailed explanations I've been trying to give. So make sure you do the basing nicely. You make sure you iron out this area. Then at this point, the suit is now covering the facing. As you can see, right? The suit material at the outside is covering the facing. So that when you put it on, you won't be seeing the interfacing outside. It will be hidden. The suit material, the main bodies of the fabric is meant to be the one showing so that it laps properly on your customer or on your client, on yourself, depends on who you are making the suit for. So this is just the stage we are in, basing before we start joining the two shoulders together, and then I think we are okay here. So we now start ironing. So now before you do the basing, you will now use gum stir to gum this curvy area. This area needs to be used, gum stir will be used to gum it 1 inch or 1.5 in order to make it stand so that it doesn't dangle as your customer moves his body, right? So this area must be used to use your gum stir and gum it in a curvy form like that. So see how 1 inch is enough. So you can just, trim it in order to give it a perfect positioning. So you make sure it's properly trimmed out, and then place the gum stir at the tip where the thread ended. Start from there, and then you gum it. You see how I sharpened the mouth of the gum stir so that it doesn't give it a bulky finishing inside. So this is what you must do. Carefully, you must do this. Don't be in a haste, like I have always said. So carefully do this. Don't be in a haste, like I have always said. So you gum all through that way. You gum all through that way. You gum all through that way. So all of these are just what you should learn. These are what we should do in order for us to achieve a perfect result. So just take your time, watch the video, practice it, save the video. Anyway, Telegram is a platform that is nice as well. It doesn't really, you have access to the video anytime you want. So you can still come back to it and make reference to it, but make sure you practice it within this month so that we can round up this tutorial. So you iron out all of this, just to make sure it's properly. You continue your basing Make sure your basing is properly done, base all through to the end. So what you did here, or what you're doing here, is what you will do on the other side as well. So this is just, will I say, the only way which you can achieve a perfect finishing and a perfect result. So base all through, right? Base all through, base all through. This is the inside. So base it all through. Look at the finishing we are having. So please make sure yours must have this finishing, right? So that you will know that yes, you really learn from this. So make sure you have your basing nice. Look at how the lining is now a bit shorter at the inside. So you have to, you are the one to guide it that way. So you are the one to guide it that way. So you can now tuck in your lining in here, tuck it in, and make sure it's relaxed. And make sure whenever you're doing your lining, you must use a fanciful lining that has fancy designs that corresponds with the color you're making. Please, we don't use fancy designs on white fabrics. Use plain white on white, then use any fancy color on any other fabric, right? Then after this, I am now going to iron. So I will place the fabric properly and bring a piece of fabric and then iron properly, iron properly. So you iron there properly. Look at how I am gently ironing that area. Now with the help of the hemming gum you have fixed inside, everything will just lap without much stress. Initially you will use your iron and clapper, and the guiding to do it. So, but then with the help of hemming gum that is invoked now, it makes the work a whole lot easy for us to understand. So you iron all through that way, iron all through that way, iron all through that way. So trying to make sure the inner one is balanced as well. Trying to make sure the inner one is balanced as well. So arrange the whole stuff, arrange it properly this way. And once you have done arranging it, you make sure it's aligning. There will be some squeezes at this area, but then don't bother. When you fix it up, it will lap properly. So just don't bother about that squeeze. It's not an issue. In the normal way it should be. So now use your piece of fabric. Make sure you retain the same color of fabric you are using. Then sprinkle enough water on it. Sprinkle water on it, and then you iron nicely. Sprinkle water on it, and then you iron nicely. So carefully iron up through this way. Sprinkle enough water. You iron out through this way. So as you're ironing, the suit will be giving you that solid finishing you have created for, right? So make sure you remove every pieces of fabric. So now, once you get to this stage, you must have gotten a long way. So you iron out through this way. Then this is how it will be. As you can see how I am ironing out the whole bodies, right? The whole bodies must be ironed in this form. Iron out through that way. A lot of gum gum applications. You have to do a lot of pressings and ironings. This video might be lengthy, but this is a full detailed video on this. So just take your time and watch the end. So this is how you do it. So carefully iron all through, iron all through, iron all through. So after you must have done this, so the next you do now is to imaginarily form your lapel, but then let's finish the inside ironing to make sure that it's lapping properly, right? And let's make sure it's lapping properly. So you finish this up properly this way, and then make sure it's lapping properly. So now you imaginarily fold your lapel this way. So look at how it's coming out already. So you imaginarily fold the lapel in this form, and then you iron down your lapel. So I think this video is just very, very straight to the point. So fold to the point where your lapel ended, right? Remember, it's a one-piece button, right? It's a one-piece button. So fold all through to this point. Then use your cooler as well to cool. So this is just giving you the finishing you have longed for. So you also take care of the sides. Take care of the sides. Then after this, you trim the lining and the armhole area. Trim it in this form. Then you're also going to work on the second one, the same process or procedures you have undergone. The same thing is what you also do on the other one as well. You start by the attaching of bump spare at the opening area of the suit. So make sure you do this as shown. Alright, so I will do this now and then show off the result at the end of the day. Now, I'm trying to hold down the back vent with a normal loose stitch, right? So hold it that way, and then it's now time for us to join. Please note importantly how the joining is being made. Alright, so now you are bringing the back panel to meet with the front panel at this point, right? It's now time for us to join. So you bring the back panel, the 2 inches you have notched at that point, right? Then bring it and then join with the front 2 inches. So the both of them must align that way. So you start from there and stitch. So your sewing will be sewn by half an inch, right? So you join half an inch from there all through that way. So make sure it's half an inch threading from the down part, thread up to the armhole area with half an inch. Make sure it's properly aligning, right? Thread all through that way. It must properly balance this way. Then, once you are done with this, you will now do the same thing as well on the other side. Join this properly this way. So do the same thing again. Notch this back panel and also notch the front panel. The front panel, you also bring it, notch it all through that way, and then you join, right? You join. So this must be done in this form. So this must be done in this form. So you join half an inch from there, half an inch from there, join all through that way. So if you notice, the suit's closure is just half an inch mostly. So don't join more than half an inch so that you don't need to amend it after your customer might have tested it. I will advise you to use your own fabric to practice this before you can bring it up for your customer to wear. So now we have joined the sides. It's now time for us to go to the table to iron. So you come to the table and make sure you are ironing out the lines you have joined. That line you have sewn, so you must iron them out this way. You must iron them out that way. Also iron the other one as well. So make sure it's properly ironed. So make sure it's properly ironed. Iron all of them. So you open press it as well. Please, as you can see, the stages I am doing, right? Just take your time to do this. Open press as well. Open press, sprinkle water on it. You open press. Don't be in a haste to do the finishing, right? Just gently do this. Open press as well. Open press all through that way. Then you also do the same thing on the other side as well. So now you carefully iron out all of this lining, right? So for you to know where you are going to thread from. So this is how your suit will look like when you get to this stage. Linings will fall all over, right? But you have to handle it properly so that it comes out as a perfect finishing for you. So let's go to the table to sew. So now you bring the shoulder point. The shoulder point is where you're going to stitch from first or next rather. So you join all through the shoulder by half an inch as well. Make sure you don't tread on the shoulder points or the where the gun warden is. So you avoid the gun warden. So trying to join this one this way. So you have to raise the gun warden, right? Because if you stitch on the gun warden, it will make the shoulder point not to relax. It will be so thick and so strong, which you will battle with in realization. So stitch half an inch as well, the usual way, half an inch all through that way. So if there's any excesses, you will trim it off, or I will show you how you will handle it, right? So just trim all through this way. So when you are done with this, the next thing you will do now is to lock the linings at the down. So you first and foremost lock the down lining first, or next rather. You will lock the down lining next, and then make sure you hold it this way, and then you lock the down lining next. Join the lining this way, lock the down lining next. Make sure it's sewn in this form. Make sure it's sewn in this form. Lock all through this way. Locking the down lining is one of the, I think, simplest things you can do here, but just need to see how it's being done. So lock the down lining. Be dragging it all through until lock everything lockable at the down. So once you're done with the down lining locking, cut the thread as well, and then this is how it will come out, right? This is how it will come out. You have locked the down lining. Now you are going to hold it from there and then attach it to the bodies of this suit, right? Because you just joined the lining to the one, so you will just attach it to the body of the suit. So this video might still, you need to watch it 2 or 3 times before you understand it properly. So lock this one as well. from the midpoint, from the middle, you lock it as well. Lock all through to the edge here. So lock all through to this point. So do the same thing on the other side as well. Lock the other side as well. So before that, you apply hemming gum at the down parts so that by the time you join it and iron it properly, it comes out very nice, very nicely. So just make sure everything is nicely arranged. Then iron all across, iron all across this way. Sorry, so not iron, sorry, so all across this way. Then also go to other edge and finish up the other. So at this point, you need to bring it out this way. So this is the other side I was opening. So we are here to cover it. So this is where we need to close now. So hold it all through across this way, and then you join, you join, you join, you join properly, you join all through to this point, you join all through to this point. So you are trying to lock the sides, right, of the lining so that it will cover properly by the inner side. The smaller body of the lining to the bigger body of the suit, which was what I did initially. The two linings is what I just did initially. So you have to do the other side as well. And then you come back and lock the down parts. So you bring it out from the inside, and then you're just going to hold it down by a certain inch. So which can be 0.5. Just make sure you hold it down and make sure that the center panel is corresponding here to the center panel, right? The center to center must correspond. So once you do this in this way, until you meet the other place where your threading started as well, so you're done with the joining. Then you now put hemming gum. The reason for the hemming gum is to make sure that when you iron it down, it laps properly without having any issue, right? So you must put hemming gum at the base here. One strand is enough. One strand, after one hemming gum is enough. So you put hemming gum there, and then make sure it's properly balanced. Then positioned you thread. So after this now, I will show you the next stage which we are going to go. Now we are trying to open thread the shoulder points. Very important as well. You must open thread the shoulder points before you can say the turn is down, because the compressing will help you to relax. So you have to take your time, open press the shoulder area, which is very much needed, right? So compress it this way, and then cover back with your gum wadding. Open press this other one as well. Open press it this way, then cover back with your gum wadding. So now I believe this you must have gotten a whole lot of information from this. So I will also show the collar and the sleeve fixing, which is I think one of the most important areas as well of our suit making. So you also make sure you iron on top by placing your fabric, a piece of fabric on top. You iron all through properly. You iron all through. Then do the same thing as well on the other side. Iron all through as well. So once you are done ironing, you now pull it. So now it's now time for us to join the lining. So before that, we loosen up like 1 inch or thereabouts on this spacing area. I'll show you how to use it. Then you are meant to hold them together in this form, the right sides facing each other. So hold them this way. You now thread the same 1/2 inch is what you're going to use as well in the joining, right? So you now thread. Please make sure you carefully do this and arrive at the same results. So also do the second line as well, the same thing. As you can see, we have joined the lining and the suit part. So next we do now is to trim a little bit of the armhole for the lining before we start talking about the sleeve fixing and then possibly the collar and the finishing. This is the stage our suit is. So look at how the armhole area, everything is coming out nicely. So I just have to fix it on my mannequin. So this is the suit we have been making, right? So the next stage we'll see now will be on the sleeve fixing and the how to put the notch collar, and then we are done. And then put your buttonholes and fix your buttons at the proper positions, and we are done. Let's take a look at the back of the suit. So this is the look at the back. So I will also do the finishing of the ironing and also the other area that is needed. All right, guys.
Alright, so now this is the shoulder pad, the one I bought in the market. So I had to thread all across in a circular form. I combine the both shoulder pads so that I can sew round. Now the essence of this stitching is to flatten it, because if you fix it this way, it will be too high for your suit, right? So you need to thread in a circular form this way. You thread all through circle. You're going to feel here with threadings. Now the essence of this is to flatten the thickness of the pad, right? So that it doesn't go extra mile or extra inch to pop up on the shoulder region. So you have to carefully do this in order to flatten all of this. So I just have to join the two shoulder pads together so that I can thread them at once, right? So just thread in a circular form. Then once you're done threading, you cut your threads and then you separate it, which I'll also show you how to fix it on the suit proper, right? So you thread to the best of your strength and ability, but make sure you thread them on top so that it's flattened, so that it doesn't get too thick. So when you get to this stage, I think the next thing to do is to start fixing it inside the suit sleeve, right? So I had to trim out the gum wardon I use in gumming the chest region so that it doesn't obstruct the armhole area. Then I had to tuck in this shoulder pad inside. Now just observe how I pushed it in, right? It will come out by half an inch or thereabouts at the shoulder region. So I flushed it properly that way. So I will now go and bring hand needle to base it or to guide it. Now the essence of this guiding is to make sure that it doesn't shift or pull when I am fixing my sleeve. So this is how you are going to do yours as well. So guide in a loose stitch, stitch as much as possible, as much as you can. Then once you are done stitching, I'll also show you the next stage you undergo. But please make sure you watch this video to the end so that you don't miss any process or any step I have explained. That is why the video is long enough, because I want to give us a full illustration or coverage on how to make these suits. I do not want to cut them and send them bit by bit so that I don't have any part I might have missed. So I'm done basing. I will now cut my thread, and then I will do some adjustments on the shoulder region before I fix my sleeve. Now before I do that, let me tack the lining to the main sleeve proper. So I had to fold 2 inches. That's some points I had to fix my lining, then stitch up like 5 inches high. Now the reason is to hold the lining to be on the part of the sleeve so that it doesn't pull off from the mouth of the sleeve, right? Then after this, I will now do what they call gathering or gathers on the lining and also on the sleeve, on the main fabric, before I fix it on the main body. So you have to thread loose stitch on this lining as shown. Then when you thread loose stitch, you are going to drag the threading so that it gives you a gather effect. That's gathers effect. Now this will be done on both the lining and the sleeve. Now because the lining is already bigger than the armhole, so you need to
shrink it a bit. Then before you fix the sleeve, you are meant to measure the sleeve circumference so that you will know to what extent you are going to gather the lining. So I'm also trying to thread the men's sleeve, the men's suit sleeve with a loose stitch, right? So I'm threading with a loose stitch so that later on I will now drag one of the threads to form the gather before I can fix it on the shoulder of my suit. Now bear in mind that you must do this gather or gathers so that you can achieve a nice fixing, right? Because if you don't gather it, you have issues where the sleeve is either smaller or bigger, or the armhole being bigger, right? So you just need to carefully do this. So I'm also trying to gather the second sleeve lining as well in order to I'm sorry, I'm trying to thread the second lining in order to gather the lining as well. So the threading must be done with a loose stitch. So this is what you must do. So when you get to this stage, I think you're almost done with your suit. And I'll also show you how to fix this. Be in mind that you're going to fix the lining separately. Also fix the main sleeve separately, right? The two will not be fixed together. So having done this, now the next I will also do is to fold the 2 inches of the sleeve lining down this way and then thread it up. This was what I did initially. So I had to redo this one for us to see, should in case any of us have any doubt or any confusion, so that you this one will clarify you. So just thread from the sleeve joining 5 inches or 4 inches high. The reason for doing this is to make sure that the lining and the sleeve um, aligns or becomes one, so that the lining will not be pulling off on its own from the tip of the sleeve, right? So now I am trying to fine tune the armhole of the suit. Carefully do this, please. Don't trim more than 3/4 inch. Just gently do this and make sure that after doing this, you measure. You measure from the joining of the back and front panel, measure all round. Now, the measurements you are taking here is to enable you know how many inches of gathers you are going to gather the lining and the sleeve so that they will give you a perfect fixing, right? So I have measured now. I got 22.5. So I will also gather this sleeve lining and the main sleeve. And after the gathers, I will make sure it corresponds to 22.5 or whatever measurement you have there. Then after which you are going to start fixing the men's. So after this, you're going to fix the sleeve first to the men's suit before you fix the lining, right? So try to gather the thing very well. Make sure that the gathering is not too squeezed or too small, just at the tip, so that it will shrink or compress the sleeve circumference to align with the body or the armhole of the main body, right? Then after this, it will give you a kind of a copy effect at this sleeve area. That is a guideline to show you that you are getting it properly. It will give you a copy effect at this area. Then after this, then the next thing to do is to also gather the lining, right? So I will carefully do all of this, and then I will also come back and show you the results before I start fixing on my sleeve, right, on my shoulder. I know this is where most of us we have challenges, how to hang the suit sleeve to the main body. Now after gathering, you also measure again to make sure it gives you 22.5. Now if at this point you notice that you have gathered much, all you need to do is to loosen some gather so that it can free the main body, right? So I think okay, sorry, the main sleeve should be 1 inch bigger, right? It should be 1 inch bigger, right? So I have 24 inches, 24 inches there. So 1 inch bigger is what you need. Then start from the notched point, right? Start from the notched point, then place it from the notched point where you notched towards the armhole area when you were drafting. Then use your needle as well to tack or to base. Now the side joining of the suits and the sleeve joining must correspond, and those two notches that you did when you were cutting the suit, the sleeve and the body must correspond as well. So use your hand needle and guide all round. Now this is the simplest trick you can use to fix the sleeve to the body, because if you can still thread it straight up, but there's every tendency that it might spill over or it might have issues. So the easiest way to do this is to make sure you guide the sleeve with loose stitch with your hand, guide all through round, Then after you must have done this, or guide to some extent, after you must have done that, you can now start threading. So this is just the trick I use, and it's working for me. So I think if you also make use of it, it will also work for you very well. So I'm trying to guide all through to the best of my ability. And then after I must have done this now, the same process I'm undergoing here is still what I will do on the second sleeve. Then after which I will now start threading. So this is one of the most vital areas in our suit making. So sleeve fixing is one of the most vital areas. So just stay cool, watch it 2 or 3 times and understand how or what I'm doing. Then you can now start making yours. Now don't forget that this is just the simplest way you can do this. Although there are still other methods you can use to achieve this, but for illustration purposes, I prefer we use this for you to have a perfect result. So let me give you a glimpse of how the sleeve is already corresponding, and also make sure that you are fixing the right sleeve left to left and right to right. So this is how the sleeve will look like after you must have threaded and guided, right? So I've continued the guiding and make sure I guide to the best of my ability. Probably after I must have exceeded the shoulder pad area, I can now start threading with my machine. So gently do this, don't be in a haste. So you can still guide to the end. There's still no problem. It's still very much okay. Then guide all through to the end and make sure that the sleeve and the body of the suit is aligning properly. So once you have gotten to this stage, your problems of sleeve fixing is 100% solved, because once you follow these processes I have shown you now, there's no way your sleeve will not come out well, because you have followed the drafting stage, the gumming stage, and also the stitching stage. Now suit making will be of great interest to you, for you to as well practice on your own, right? With the help of this video now, it will give you a clearer knowledge on how to make your suit. Now bear in mind that you can still remake this on your own before you can make for your customer. So I have finished guiding all through. Now the next thing to do here is, let me also show you the result. Look at how it is. So you are meant to drag it a bit. So you just have to drag it a bit. This is how it is. Imagine you have not sewn yet, so, and it's giving me this vibe, right? The nice finishing vibe. So I also do the same thing on the other sleeve as well. Trim out the excesses like I did in the first one, and then also proceed with the sleeve guiding on my outfit. So make sure you just trim out just those rough edges. This is how it is. So I believe you're enjoying the video, and then I have also done the other one. So this is how it also came out. So I'm yet to sew, right? So you now start stitching from the center joining. Start stitching from the center joining. Just be careful. Start stitching from there. Then make sure that your stitching is coming after the white thread you use in guiding, right? So that it will not be visible outside. And make sure the stitching is not more than half an inch or 3/4 inch maximum. So just thread all through that way, and you are done with your sleeve fixing. So just carefully thread it all through, thread all through, thread all through. So it's something that you'll be doing patiently. Don't be in a haste to thread it. This is not our regular senator outfit that you thread at will. You have to sew this intentionally and gently. So I'm taking my time in doing this. Now this video is one of the longest videos you can come across with, because I make sure that all the videos are carefully compiled in order to give you a full clip. So I do not want to send them bit by bit, so that it doesn't spoil the fun or the joy of this, right? So I am threading nicely, making sure it's coming out very well. All right, so now, like I said, you need to be patient enough and careful enough as well when you are proceeding, right? So all these things are what you must take your time to do. So don't be in a haste. Please don't be in a haste. Please don't be in a haste. It's going to be very, very much um, tactical. So this is how the trading came out. Don't forget as well that I have not finished the shoulder pad area. I'll also show you what next to do, but just learn first how to thread it, so that when you get to the last finishing stage, you will not be confused to proceed. So I am actually being intentional about this video, and also the class in general. So please kindly still make your questions, ask your questions, and also make sure you watch the video first, because the video is self-explanatory, so that you don't have to ask questions that are already explained in the video, right? So for some of us who are eager to make this suit, just watch the video. It's going to take you like 3 to 4 hours to finish the videos in order for you to have a full knowledge. And it's advisable you use an earpiece so that you can pick up every bit of my explanations, so that you don't miss anyone I might have explained with normal phone speaker playing, right? So just use your earpiece to listen attentively. So now, this is how you do that. All right, so now as you can see, I'm done threading the second shoulder. So this is how it came out, right? So I will still go and iron it out properly. All right, so now the next stage we are going to do now is to call the ringing. That's what we call ringing. Ringing is what we use to make the shoulder stand properly. So cutting is 2 inches or 2.5. So you cut it as long as you can, in order to make it to be able to go around the shoulder armhole area, right? So you cut 2 inches or 2.5 inches this way, cut it long. Then after that, you fold half an inch that way, then you thread, right? Fold half an inch that way, you thread. Please watch properly, note carefully how this area is being done. Then thread all through this way, right? So thread all through this way. Make sure you thread it's very important, you must thread in this form. And the color of threading, it doesn't matter, it can be white, it can still be the same color you use in your suits making, right? So don't bother about the color of thread, right? Because it's still going to be inside. Lining will cover everything up. So you thread all through that way. So now when you thread all through to this point, now the next thing you are going to do now is to start ringing the armhole area, right? So please note how I am going to do this for you to have a perfect shoulder sitting or finishing properly. Then once you are done with that, then I am going to bring the suit now. Then start from the side joining, where you have the half part of the suit from the front block, the side joining, right? Then then thread from that same point you folded half an inch. Please watch carefully how it's being placed inside. Note how I am placing this inside. The half an inch folding will be placed towards the armhole area, while the SSCs will be placed inside the bodies of the suits. So thread on top of that same line that you have run initially, right? Thread on top of that same line, and make sure that this your thread now is not exceeding the point where you use to join the sleeve. So make sure that it's still lapping on top of the point where the sleeve joining is positioned or is being sewn initially. So thread all through that way. So when threading, you also make sure you shift any rumples on the sleeve so that it doesn't give it a squeeze stitching. So make sure it's relaxed. Carefully do this. Gently do all of this. Thread all through to that point. Thread all through to that point. Thread, look at how I'm threading right on top of that line I ran initially, and also making sure it's lapping on the first line I used to join the sleeve. That is the trick you're going to use. So because if you are threading across the line, that means you are adding extra inch to it. So make sure it's going all through that way. Make sure it's going all through that way. So now it will get to the same half an inch um, 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 of the side joining, right? So of the armhole, the shoulder area. Then, as you can see, the threading went all through that way, all around. Then it's now time for me to join the shoulder pad. Now if you saw it clearly, I did not thread on top of the shoulder pad. I had to remove the shoulder pad first and did the ringing before I now start fixing the shoulder pad lastly, right? So after the ringing is where the shoulder pad comes next. So this is very, very important as well. So this is how you are going to do what they call ringing on your shoulder or your armhole region, right? So once you are done with that, so this is how it's been done. So you will see the extra finishing it will give to the sleeve immediately I turn it open, right? So I'm going now to trim the excess shoulder pad coming out on the armhole area so it doesn't distort the sleeve, so that it doesn't do what? Distort the sleeve. So I will trim all across that way. So when I trim all through that way, so let's bring it out and see the effects it's going to give us. So see how fine our sleeve is, looking like already made sleeve, right? It's looking like already made sleeve. So you need to drag it. Look at, wow, this is so lovely. So this is how our suit sleeve should look like as always. Please watch this part carefully and make sure you repeat what I have just shown for you to understand better, right? So let's now do the other one. So also starting from that same point to start your ringing, right? So start from that same point. So ring all through this way. The joining started from the point where the side panel or where the chest gum ended at the side, right? That's a half front panel is where the ringing will start from. So you also make sure you thread it on top of the line you have sewn initially. Please note that all these factors contributes to having a perfect sleeve, because if you thread on a fresh line, it will result to a point where the sleeve will fall or the sleeve will not stand as it should. Now these threadings contribute massively to this finishing you just saw now on our suit, right? So thread all through that way and make sure that every threading is corresponding on the old threading you made initially, and make sure you thread all through this way. So all these things are what you should watch carefully and do before you will have the same result or even a better result, because you that is going to do it will not take a time to do yours. I'm trying to kind of rush some kind of things and illustrate, explaining and sewing is not really easy, right? So this is where the ringing will end, right? 1 inch before the end of the armhole is very much okay, or the shoulder point is very much okay. Then you start from there and then balance the shoulder region. So I'm trying to correct something there. I just corrected something there. Then I have threaded that part this way. So now trying to trim the excesses. Don't forget that the ringing will stop like 2 inches before the joint on the armhole. It shouldn't join all through so that it doesn't give you inconvenience on the armhole region. So this is the second sleeve now. So now I have done the both left and the right sleeve. So look at the finishing of the other one. So I hope you're enjoying the video. This is how my suit sleeve is coming out nicely. So I will say iron it out and then before I do the finish. So now I want to now join my lining, because after the ringing is where you now start locking your lining. Now trying to trim the excess lining protrusions, but still make sure that the lining is a bit wider than the shoulder region, right? But should not be more excessively wide. It should be like quarter inch or 1 inch wider. Then trim all the armhole protrusions and make sure it's lapping properly as you should. So trim all the armhole protrusions. So all of this is what you must do, right? So just gently do this, and then the next to do now is to start joining the lining to line that the lining of the suit to the lining of the sleeve, right? So this is what you will carefully do, and make sure that the lining is not dropping below the armhole. It should be a bit higher at that point, so that when you want to start joining, it will not exceed. So now this joining we have a particular position you should start from. So I'm trying to trim the other one. I'll also show you the position where the lining should start from. That point you notched when sewing, right? So this is also where you're going to target, because when you target it very well, that is where your joining should start from as well, so that it doesn't exceed that notch point or where your ringing ended, right? So start from there as well, and then mark chalk there, as you have seen this way. Mark chalk like this, and then you are now going to drag out the lining on the sleeve. So you face it down, and then make sure that your gathers is properly done, and it's going to be equal to the circumference of the armhole, right? So this is just what you should do, and make sure that it doesn't exceed or go below. It should be exact. So now you hold it this way, the two faces mirroring each other, and then you start from there and start joining. Now bear in mind that you will not be able to sew it all through, because you are going to complete the armhole sewing from the neckline, meaning you have to sew to an extent before you now complete it from the inside neck. That's, you dip your hand from the neck and bring out the armhole of the lining, and then complete the round sewing in order to achieve a perfect finishing on the armhole region, right? So now, after you must have done that, now the next thing to do is to do the lock. After that, you now do the notch collar fixing, and you're done with your suit. So just carefully also watch how this line is being joined. Now I'm trying to join to the best where this machine will be able to thread at this point. Don't forget that the sleeve lining is being gathered and is the one under, as you can see how the thread is showing, right? So you make sure that your new sewing is sealing or concealing the point where the gather ended, or where the gather was made, right? So just cut your threads, and then this is how it is. Now I will finish it up that area from the neck region. So now if you notice that the lining is a bit shorter, you can loosen some gather, so that it will be able to augment. Now at this point, I will now open up the neck region, and then I will now bring it out from the neck, and then I will now finish up the sewing. So this is what you will do, right? So now I'm trying to show you all the processes I am undergoing, so that you don't miss any step that is very vital, right? These steps I am taking now are very, very essential for you to see them and understand how these things are done. So just thread all through that way. So thread all through this way. Make sure that you're threading and the lining, they must correspond. There should not be any foldings or excesses. It should correspond as well. So once you are done with that, then you are done with the lining. Then I am going to now bring it out again. This is how it is. So look at the finishing from the inside. Look at how fine my lining is.
It's even going to look like if it's the main fabric. So after this, now I will also tack the shoulder pad with the lining. So look at how I folded the shoulder pad first. Don't tack it that way, right? Because if you do it that way, it will give issue when stitching, right? So I will fold this point, one piece of it. I will thread it to an extent in order to make sure that it's lapping properly. So this is just a way to hold the lining to be firm on the body of our suit, right? So I'm not going to thread. I will use hand to tack it. If you thread it, it will result where the lining will be dragging down the sleeve. It will drag the lining, the sleeve down, and it will make the shoulder to fall. So you avoid sewing anything else here because you have achieved a perfect sleeve shoulder joining. So you are going to use your hand and tack it to a moderate extent, right? So make sure it's properly tacked all through that way. It should be properly tacked. Just use your hand with your hand needle and tack. Please don't sew. Please don't sew. If you sew, it will make the shoulder to fall, right? So make sure it's corresponding very well, and make sure that the shoulder area is corresponding very, very well. So carefully do this. So tag all through to a meaningful extent that will hold the core shoulder down properly. Tag all through to a meaningful extent, right? So this is just how you are going to achieve a nice finishing, right? So just fold all through that way, and then you stitch all through. Carefully do this, please. Don't be in a haste to finish. Please don't be in a haste to finish. Just go gently. So once you're done with the tacking, you can now end your threading somewhere there by running the thread 3 times or 2 times there, and then end it properly, and then cut your threads. So this is the finishing, right? So we are done doing that. So with this now, the lining will never pull off from the shoulder. It will remain there, and it will not inconvenience your customer. So I will also do the other one, and then we go to the next stage, which is the collar fixing, right? So also watch this one as well for you to also learn in case there's anything you did not grab on the other one. Also watch how I am trying to gather the lining before I proceed with the stitching proper. So it's not easy actually to be recording and explaining honestly, but then this is all we got to do for us to learn this very well. So let's just keep calm and learn this as well. All right, so now we are trying to do the notch collar, the yeah, which is the last stage before you fix your buttons. Then you bring a fabric placed in this form. Now don't forget that the lapel, the facing is still longer. So at this stage you can now trim it off. This is the facing, right? So trim it off. So see how I trimmed it all through across. So it's now time for us to cut our collar and fix. Now I think this is also one of the most tasking areas. So at this stage I will now trim the same thing on the other lapel area. So before that, you loosen up the lining a bit. Now this loosening is going to help you fix your collar properly without having much corrections. Then you trim out some excess at this point. Please watch closely. Watch closely. Do the same thing on the other side. Loosen your lining a bit. Lose the lining a bit. Lose the lining. Then trim a certain extent, right? Just to make it to flush properly. Then after this, you are now going to measure from there across to this point is 4 inches, right? So you also measure from the other side as well to confirm it's still the same inch. Then measure this from the end of the collar to the center back. Then we have it to be 12, right? So let me use the other tape for us to see properly. So now, sorry, 6, that's 6, not 12, 6. So now I draw a straight line at this point.
Then I will mark at 6 1/4, which is what I got in the measurement, right? 6 1/4. Then I will slant it in this form. The slanting is angle 45 degrees. Angle 45, that diagonal form. Then on that part, I will measure the collar size, which is 4.5, which is what I got. Then collar width is 4 inches, right? 4 inches. Then 4 inches is my collar width. And then here is 4.5. Then here is 6 1/4. That's what I measured on the back and the front. Then curve in this form, curve in this form. Please watch how I curved. Then it will be a bit longer than the main collar because of folding. So you add extra 1.5 inch there for the folding of the collar, right? Then you are to cut in this form. Now we are meant to use white, or sorry, black collar gum. They have collar stay for suit, right? Or black gum warding, right, for the collar. But I want us to use the same fabric, and then we are going to use the white, or sorry, the black hairstay to first gum this, right? We have to gum this first, so that in order not to make it to have air, so you have to gum this first. Then after this one, you are going to now cut the white or black gum warden, which we are going to use as the main gumming. And then we also try to cover the gum warding with the same fabric, so that it doesn't show, right? So it doesn't show. So I trim here in this form, also trim here as well in this form. So I trim here as well in this form. So making sure it's properly trimmed. Making sure it's properly trimmed. So after this, you gum. Then, as you can see, I am applying water on it before I place my iron on top. It will help you to have a perfect gumming. So use iron and water and sprinkle first. Then apply water and then gum as shown. Then when you gum in this form, now it has gone properly. Now the next thing to do now is to use the same material and trace out the white gum warding, which I'll also show you as well how to do it. All right, so now we are trying to fix this. Now you are meant to push the suit up in this form, right? Then please watch attentively. Then first thread it. First thread this area. Now this threading is to keep it firm or firmly on this. Thread the tip, thread the lining as well, right, so that it locks it down. Then also thread the other area. You have done some alterations, then thread it, or better still, you can still use your hand needle to guide it. So thread all this so that it just gives you a one piece at the neck region, so that it doesn't give you both lining and suits coming as a different piece. So once you're done with the threading, right, then you now proceed with your fixing proper. So you are going to start from here. Then you're meant to start from this open place, then hold it firmly. Please watch attentively. Hold this firmly. Now make sure that the collar is being pushed out by at least 2 inches or 2.5. Then start from that area that you did not close. Then start from there and attach this collar, right? Please watch attentively. You must make sure you join with that same inch that is left underneath. I'm trying to balance it properly. So start from there, and then you thread this way. Please carefully do this. Carefully do this. Don't be in a haste. So you thread, make sure you push the collar you have cut by like at least 2 inches or thereabout. That inch you added when drafting is what I'm pushing out. Then push it out and then make sure it's properly positioned. Carefully do this, please. Very important. Here, this is a very critical stage. Then thread that same quarter inch or quarter of an inch all through. So thread all through this way. Watch, thread fine. You have thread. Now you cut your thread, and then you're also going to thread the other side. Look at how the threading came. So cross check every other stage, then also thread the other one as well. Thread the other one as well, the other end of the collar, the lapel area as well. So thread it all through as well. Thread all through as well. Carefully do this. Don't be in a haste to finish up. Thread all through, and once you get to that point of your collar ending, the notch, the lapel collar, you stitch. Make sure as well that it's pushed out by extra 2 inches. Very important. Then hold the back piece now. Please watch. Hold the back piece. Hold the back piece. Then I'm trying to drag out the lining, right? So hold the lining properly and then stitch it first on it. Stitch it first on it. Carefully do this. So stitch it first on it, just to make sure it's properly balanced. Then make sure that any edge that has joining, you open it up and thread. So stitch first on the lining, please watch. Stitch first on the lining. Stitch first on the lining. Stitch all through to this point. And then after that, you are going to make sure it's properly balanced. Then you now bring the lining and stitch to the main bodies, right? Stitch to the main bodies, but then let's first finish the lining stitching first. I stitch halfway so that it doesn't spill over. So stitch halfway. So now you're done with that. Then this is how it is. You can see I first ran the collar on the lining. Now the main suit back is still open, right? This area it will be used. I will use the other gun warden, so I will cover it properly with my other gun warden. Then I'm trying to open press the joining so that it's relaxed, so it will relax properly. So open press the lining area and make sure that this folding is properly done. The folding, the inch you use to join to the body of the suit before the lining area. So try my best to iron it out properly so that it laps properly. So once you're done with this, now you now fold this tip properly. Make sure that it's relaxed as seen. Then this is how it is. Now let's now also open press the other side. So you also open press the other side properly. Open pressing is very much needed here, because if you don't do this now, there's no other time you can do this. So you must open press now or never, right? So just take your time to open press all the joints area. You can still iron from the back lining in order to make it flatten. So after this, the next thing to do, you can see how neat it is, right? Then we are now going to bring the fabric again and trace out the size we want. So before that, we are going to arrange the neck in this form, and then we are going to mark out the size of the finishing we want, but let us iron first for us to have a perfect finishing there. So you iron first. Make sure you always place fabric on top of wherever you are placing your iron on, because it will help to give you a nice result, right? So don't iron directly to the fabric. Then after that, the next to do now is to guide. So use your threading and guide. Now trying to lap this neck tip to the main collar. That's the collar inside. Because if you don't lap it or guide it, it will um, give issues when after fixing. So you must guide this properly, right? So carefully thread as shown. So carefully thread the back area as shown. Make sure that the threading you are doing is catching the back piece tip. That's the back piece this way. So look at how it's catching it. So just thread it all through that way. So thread all through that way. So after this, you can. So after that now, you can now come to your machine and do some threading. So I am trying to thread at the tip of the lining so that it doesn't show, right? So you must guide first before you thread. So thread at the tip of the lining so that it doesn't show too well. Just thread at the tip. So thread all through that way. This is just trying to help hold the back piece permanently to the bodies of the collar and the lining so that it doesn't pull off or it doesn't give air when you are done sewing. So the both must be equal or must be together. So thread all through this way. Then only the lining area is what I'm threading. Then after this, you are meant to cut off every knit threading that is showcasing or that is showing. So cut off all threadings. Then mark 1/1/4 here. From that edge, 1/1/4 this way. Then from here, mark 2.5 or 2 3/4. Then from here, you also mark 2.5 there. Then from here, 2 3/4 as well. 2 3/4, and here 1/1/4, right? 1/1/4. So you're going to use the chalk and trace it. Make sure that the chalk is being marked properly. Trace all through this way. Trace all through that way. Trace all through this way. Then trace all through this way. So after you must have done this, now the next to do now is to give notch. Notch. Don't notch too much. The notching will help you to fold, right? The notching will help you to fold this easily. So notch all through that way. So when you're done notching, you now start folding. Now your folding will also be guided, right? You can use your machine to fold, or you can use your hand needle to fold, but I think I prefer my hand needle because it gives me the exact points of where I need to fold. You also take your time in doing this. So I'm folding that inch I have marked now. You fold backwards, right? You fold backwards. So you fold backwards. So guiding all through that way. So after which you can see iron it out, iron it flatly, but then just to make sure everything is properly arranged, fold all through that way. Then once you fold to this point, the next thing you're gonna do now is to guide it all through, fold all through. So now
after which you can now press, right? So look at how nice it is. So you iron. Please don't notch the L-like threading you are seeing on your neck. Please don't notch it. It's not, the notching is not needed, right? So just iron out all through, iron out all through, iron out all through, just the way it is. Please don't notch. So iron all through. So once you are done ironing, so the next thing you're gonna do now is to make sure you also cover the back with either your black gum warden, or you follow the process I am using now, which I think is better off. Then you fold the tip here. So you fold it backwards. So you fold it backwards. Now you fold this first before you start drafting your black gum warden, right? So you fold it backwards this way. So I will get my same fabric of the same width. I'll trace it out, and then I will use zigzag machine to fix this on my um, back collar. So after this video now, we'll go to the next stage, which is I'm trying to balance it properly. If you notice anything, you loosen it up and then correct it properly. So if you notice any issue there, you loosen that edge. So you must make sure that the edge gives you a sharp edge, right? So you now mark half an inch across the neck region, right? On top of the suit, half an inch on top, where that white threading is. So you mark chalk again across that way. You mark it half an inch after the thread, all through this way. So you stick in the chalk so that when you turn it over to trace it out from the fabric, it will drop some chalk sediments, right? So thicken it properly. So thicken it all through, thicken it all through. So once you're done with this, now you're going to bring the same fabric, then place beneath, and then you hit it. You hit your hand on top, make sure it's the front, then you hit your hand on top, mark the edges, right? So you hit your hand, then before that, you also trace the mouth this way. You know, the mouth is already folded, that's the down one. So you just trace this one exact, then you're hitting now on that area that the chalk was double so that it will show. So look at it, right? Haha, very nice. So you also re-emphasize the chalking, trying to make it come out nicely as well. Then you're going to cut this edge. You're going to cut this edge. So I'm cutting a bit wider, right? Maybe 1 inch wider than the width. So I also give extra gap at the base just to give room for foldings and trimmings, so it doesn't go shorter than what I need. So just cut out in this one as well. Then this is what it looks like, just the same way the color was looking but a bit bigger. Then you now cut your gum warden, whether white or black. You cut your gum warden and then gum on this. Now you gum it on this. So this is where you're going to gum with your gum warden. You gum with this, cut exact, and then you gum. Make sure you follow the steps. You must have come a long way to have gotten to this stage. So just stay tuned to the end. You're almost there. So after that, the next thing to do now is to also give a notch on that point that your real material, that your real color ended. Then I am going to place hemming gum on this in order to make it have a smoother
gumming, right? So that it doesn't give air as well. So place hemming gum all across the bodies of the um, material, and then you trim off any excess hemming gum. Still place them back because we need it more here. And then cover any gap that you are seeing. Cover any gap that you are seeing. Then place on top this way, right? Place on top this way, and then you gum. And then you trim off any excesses from these points. You trim off any excess of the gum warden, trim it off. Then before we fix it, I will use my zigzag machine to guide the edge so that it doesn't spill over. Please note, you don't use weaving. Please don't use weaving. Use zigzag machine just to give it that fancy stitching. You will see it on this before we fix it on our main collar, right? So just gum properly. Make sure that everywhere is gummed properly before you go ahead. So just gum all through. So I'm trying to remove the guidance now, the one I used in guiding the folding. So I'll remove it first before I fix, right? So removing the guidance, remove the guidance so that the thread will give room for that. Then I will now open it up. Watch. I'll open it up this way and then place this in this form. Now use my zigzag machine to attach it. Now the stitching will be a bit loose. Look at the zigzag effect, right? Make sure it's not getting to the point of the folding as if you're attaching your band, but with a zigzag threading, right? Please don't use a straight stitch. Here is where you need all the decorations you might be needing on your suit, right? So just use zigzag to attach this all through. Zigzag all through. Attach it all through to this point. Just thread, just zigzag machine all through. Attach this all through to this point, and make sure you don't have an unevenness. Make sure it's equal enough. So if you don't have zigzag machine, obviously you can use your hand to do this one, but make sure it's neat as this, right? But I think all of us should have zigzag machines because this is also what we'll be needing in our buttonholes. If you want to do a manual buttonhole, but you can still send it to where they do industrial or suit buttonhole, so which they will charge you and give you a neater finishing, right? So stitch all through this way. So after you must have gotten to this stage, now watch how I will guide the edge or the tip or the base rather. So watch how I also guide the base. So cut the threads as well. Cut my threads properly. Look at how neatly finished here is. So this is how it will look like. Then at this stage, you are going to bring your hand needle, then guide guide it again, guide it again, so that it doesn't pull or shift from where it should. You're the one that will position your collar the way you want it to be. So guide it again. This might be a long process, but this is just the professional way to do this because I don't want to jump any process on the recording. That's why I had to record this all through to this process. So you guide again. After you must have guided this way, then please watch how I will attach it to the main to the downside. Watch closely how I will attach that to the main body, right? So you guide again, making sure that it's relaxed as it should or as you want. So once you get to this stage, Now, the next to do as well is to guide the body. So you guide the body. The body guiding is to make sure that there's no air in it. There should be no air in it. So guide as much as you can. Guide as much as you can. So guide as much as you can. Guide as much as you can. Guide as much as you can. So guide as much as you can. So as you can see, I'm guiding everything on the collar in order to make it to relax so that it doesn't spill over or have rumples or squeezes, right? So you must guide all through this way. So this is just how it must be done. So you just guide all through this way. Just guide all through this way. Just guide all through this way. Guide all through this way. Please carefully do this. Don't be in a haste. Guide all through that way. This is the final part of our suit making. Then the finishing is ironing and then buttonhole fixing and tacking, which is not hard. So just take your time, guide the collar all through this way, all through this way. So after I must have done this now, so the next to do now is to start doing finishing the underneath collar, right? So I will trim a bit. I will trim. I will trim here enough. The trimming should not reveal the underneath neck size, right? It should collar size. It should give you like quarter-inch coverage. So carefully trim this so that it doesn't cut the men's suit. Please be careful, right? Because you can mistakenly cut out the men's suit, right? So just trim all through this way. Trim all through this way. So trim all through this way. So after I must have done this, now still watch carefully how I will do the finishing. So I'm trying to remove the parts that is close to the edge. Then I will now use the zigzag machine and thread the mouth, right? I use the zigzag machine and thread the mouth on its own. Zigzag machine and thread the mouth. Please watch. Zigzag machine and thread the mouth before I now go to my machine to sew it proper, right? So the essence of zigzag machine cannot be overemphasized. It's what you should do in order to achieve a nice finishing, right? So I believe by this stage you are already getting the value of what you should in this our suit illustrations. So I know I might have taken time before these videos might have come up, but just bear with me. It's not easy running fashion school, customers clothes, and also online trainings. So I'm trying to create chance where I will explain properly, just the way I am trying to explain now. For the past 4 hours, I am making this. So just carefully do this and make sure it's coming out the way it is. So after this now, I will now use my hand needle as well and tack. Now at this stage, I will now use the same color, blue, right? So blue, I will use my hand needle and tack it all through. Making sure that I'm picking up the suits and lapping on the main collar, right? So this is what I will do carefully, carefully, right? So just carefully pick up this and arrange it all through this way. Arrange it all through this way. So carefully pick it up. Please make sure that you use the same color of thread when tacking this. So please make sure you practice, ask questions, drop on the comments, sorry, not comment section, drop in the group so that I will go through it. If you have any confusion, but please make sure you must have watched the video to the end and watch it twice, because the more you watch it, the more it makes more sense to you. If you watch it once, it might be boring, it might be so tiring. But if you watch it carefully, it will make more sense to you and for you to be able to practice. So this is the first ever video that I sent in this group that is complete. So with the help of this one only, you can make your suits, right? So just tack all through, tack all through, tack all through. So tacking and suits are synonymous. You must make sure you learn how to tack and make sure you use the small needle and not the big needle, right? So this is another stage, another thing we all also need to know. So this is the finishing stage of our suit. So just tack all through, please, very important. Tack all through. So tack all through to this point. Carefully tack it. Make sure that the tacking is relaxing as it should, right? So you should relax properly as you should. So you should relax properly as you should. You should relax properly this way. So if you observe carefully, the tacking is coming from the choking. That's half an inch or quarter-inch choking I made on the men's suit body. So that also should be your guideline. So you should also make sure you tack from that line so that it doesn't spill over, right? Please just carefully do this. Don't be in a haste. So carefully do all of this. So coming to this edge as well. Also note importantly how I will finish it properly. Please watch. Cut your threads. Remove any color of thread that is not yours. So you now tie it there. Tie it 2 times, right? Cut your thread. Then watch. I will cut off the excess at this stage. Cut the threads. Cut off the excess at this stage. Cut off the excesses. Then I will now fold the collar to come backwards this way, and then also fold this one again to come backwards, which I will now trim some certain inch, then use hemming gum to hold it very well. Then use hemming gum, hold this very well, iron it nicely, iron nicely. Then I will now carefully remove the threadings of the white threadings, and make sure when removing them you make sure you don't drag it. Make sure you cut them individually and put them off. Dragging it will shrink the body. I might change the shape of the suit. So just bring it down, and then you also hem the tip of the other collar. Then after which you now iron out the whole collar, and your suit collar is done. Right? It's done. It's done. So this is how you do your suits. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Please ask your questions where needed, right? So cut your threads, cut all these threads, and then pull them off one after the other. And we are done with our collar. So this is how it is. Alright guys, see how nicely finished it is. So you remove every other threadings